What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Apex, the podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back, and we have a record-breaking interview here today. Broke the record, broke Peeps' record previously with us and Teq. We talk about fucking everything. I swear, we talked about everything. And lots of stuff about orgs, lots of stuff about future, competitive stuff, lots of like drama stuff too, because Teq has been in the middle of some of that throughout his time. So you're going to want to get to that. But we also have a brand new season. By the time you are listening to this right now, a brand new season of Apex Legends will have dropped, which means we've got a brand new patch note and we've got some changes to the Legends and all of that different stuff. We're going to get to that in a second. But first, let's check in with the boys. Peeps, my man, how is your week? How are you doing?
Week is good. Week has been busy. Just slowly getting back from TwitchCon and giving my liver a break. But you know, I have a friend visiting from Boston, so we've been going degenerate. I literally went to bed 2 days ago at 9 in the morning because we had like 8 people here just drinking and singing. So it's been fun.
Singing random songs,
dude. I was DJing the shit out of that whole entire night. Bops.
Yeah. You said last week you were looking to black out. Was that achieved?
Nah. We were gone. Didn't black out though, which is probably for the best.
We'll consider that W.
Yeah. There we go. Enoch, how's your week going?
It's been good, man. I'm super excited for the split. It's been a good I'm pretty sure I talked about it last episode, but I might not have. But dude, when Apex is bad, and we touch on it in the interview, but bro, people just don't fucking want it. Like, we got people like tweeting left and right about how numbers are going down, about this and that, and then like the day before the split, when literally nobody's going to be streaming, you got the most opportunity, and guess what? There's a lot of people just not showing up, not clocking in. But man, I have been, and let me tell you, that shit is fire. When you show up and you work when nobody else does, you eat, and you eat well. And I've been eating. I'm a keep eating, and no matter how bad or good Apex gets, I'm gonna be working and I'm gonna be eating. And so whatever you're like getting after and whatever you're trying to build and whatever you're working towards, just put in that work, especially when nobody else wants to. And there's like that alone will take you so far in your journey. And man, what about you, Wyatt?
Our week was good. 8 years ago, the Denver Broncos beat the Kansas City Chiefs. And I thought, wow, we beat them again, just like we always do. This is great. There's no way we lose every single game we play against them for 8 straight years after this. Well, guess what? That is what happened. And yesterday, for the first time in 8 years, the Denver Broncos beat the Kansas City Chiefs. I stayed up till 2 o'clock in the morning. I watched every press conference. I watched the highlights like 3 times. I'm convinced we're going to the Super Bowl. I found a way. Like, if you think about it, we almost beat the Commanders. We lost the Raiders by 1 point. We're like 1 or 2 good drives away from being a Super Bowl contending team. It's crazy. I'm on top of the world right now. The San Francisco 49ers, if the season started 2 weeks ago, would be 0-2. The Broncos would be 2-0. Who's really the better team at that point? You know, like who really is the better team? Some might say it's the boys in orange and blue, and that's what I think. So I'm feeling on top of the world. It's also Halloween time. I love Halloween so much. I've watched so many movies, so many Halloween movies. Gone to the Halloween store like 70 times. It's Halloween season, baby. But speaking of stuff that's going to be scary, we've got a brand new season of Apex, which is always scary. We don't know if it's even going to work half the time. But this time it looks like it's going to work. So, ladies and gents, let's get straight into it here. We're not going to go through every single patch note because there is a lot of them. We're going to go through the major things here and the things that we think could potentially affect ranked and or competitive. And so there's lots of different things here. I'll start off with the new legend. We've got Conduit on the way, support legend. Do we think with any shadow of a doubt that she will be good enough to break into competitive and or have like a lengthy deep run in ranked that doesn't involve somebody like kill grinding or something like that?
Ranked, I could see it, right? If she's anything like Rev's ult, with her tack or whatever the hell it may be, that could be kind of nuts. And her ult seems like it's really good defensively, and for just clearing out space, even for an offensive push. Comp, I think we got to see the way things play out, but for her to replace Bang, Cat, or Horizon, I think it's tough. What about you, E?
Yeah, in comp, definitely just way too early to tell. Just because, like as you said, Bangcat, Horizon, those three are just so strong. And then when you got Bloodhound in the mix, which we've been seeing on Stormpoint and Olympus, uh, it would take an awful lot for Conduit to be able to like work her way into there. It does look like it'll be a fun support legend. We haven't really had one of those in a while. I think the last one was Newcastle. Could be wrong. Um, but yeah, we have a first like real like action fight healer. We'll see how strong the tactical is. I could see the tactical being a little bit overtuned and being a little bit strong, or it could be like an absolute non-factor and not do much. Uh, we'll just see how it plays out. But yeah, just in comp, I would say there's probably like little to no chance just because of how strong the characters that we're seeing, and even with Bang getting nerfed in all areas, even with Cat getting nerfed in so many areas, those are still like two legends who are going to be unbelievably strong, and in my opinion, borderline must picks. And so I think we'll see a lot of Bang Cat continuing on. But I think it'll get interesting with who that third slot is. And I think that'll really it'll be depending on the play style of the team, who they'll end up going with in that third slot.
Moving on off of the brand new legend, we're heading into the map rotation. And Enoch, is there going to be any mental exercises you can give people to help them now that Broken Moon is back in the rotation?
Dude, we got Broken Moon, Stormpoint, Olympus. And I'm not gonna lie. I'm not like I feel like we're going from, in my opinion, I think World's Edge, KC, Olympus is probably my favorite rotation I could play. And Broken Moon, Stormpoint, Olympus might be the worst that I could think of to play. And so it's going to be a mental exercise of just enjoying what you got while it's in front of you. And then you can always just be thankful for the moments that you've had and for the moments that will be. And once we get a little bit better of a map rotation in, but it could be worse. I think Stormpoint. I mean, Caustic's pretty much washed and out of the picture at this point anyway. And so my Caustic days are behind me, especially on this map rotation. Ain't no way you're playing Caustic on Stormpoint, Broken Moon, and Olympus is the best out of those three, and that is just not tough. That great of a situation. And so, other than that, it should be fun. It'll be. I'm so thankful that we have like the three maps, because going from an 80-day Broken Moon to now being able to only like to like something fresh each and every, it's so nice.
Those days were so damn.
Yeah, the big thing is you just focus on the fact that you get to play on something new each time, and that you're not playing Broken Moon for 80 days. That's the mental exercise right there.
There we go. It could always be worse, I guess, is the phrase that would come from that. Peeps, do we know you're too new to the show to know how you really feel about some of these maps. Can you give us a map ranking real quick and how you feel about this rotation?
Yep. I'm actually I like Broken Moon. Right? I think the end zones on it could use a little work, but I feel like the buildings were designed for end zones. I feel like the map was designed for Comp Apex. They had that in mind when they were making it. Stormpoint, I like it as well. It's fun. Olympus. So I think ranking wise, as of right now, I would put Kings Canyon at the top. I have a blast Kings Canyon. I would go Broken Moon, Storm Point, Olympus, World's Edge. That's where I'm at. I
Fair.
think I think World's Edge. We just played too much of this shit, and I'm done with it. I don't know, man. I don't know. I think there was a stat that we played. I think it was 9 straight seasons with World's Edge being in the rotation, some way somehow. You know,
It was a
so
long time. It was a
yeah,
very long time. Yeah, it was tough. But along with Storm Point being in the rotation, and we all know how Storm Point has been up to this point, it is different now. Now, there is a full blog post that you can read on EA's website that kind of breaks it down, but they did make the map smaller and they changed a ton of the POIs. It could arguably be one of the biggest map updates we've ever seen that didn't involve just being a brand new map because they changed a bunch of it. They made Storm Point smaller. I think they were trying to make it a little bit better and easier on the casuals aspect of Storm Point because watching it, it's incredible. Like watching it in ALGS, it is the by and far and away the best map that we have.
agree.
They're changing it now. So that could mess with things. Um, Obviously, you guys can't give too big of an opinion right now on how it affects competitive because we haven't gotten to see it yet. We haven't even gotten to play it yet. But do you think these changes will be big enough to make it a map that was favored and loved by all the pros to now maybe falling out? Or is it, it's still far and away one of the better maps, no matter what changes they make to it, just because World's Edge is so old and decrepit?
Go ahead.
I think the biggest thing is that people are just tired of playing it. And
Yeah.
it's just, especially from a comp perspective, with the way that comp Apex plays out, especially with these, like the teams at like the highest level, it really like, and we're going to talk about it in the interview a little bit. It's just, it almost gets down to a point where it's like clockwork, where, like you see this zone and you already know what everybody's going to be doing. And so mixing it up and finding ways to change it a little bit while keeping it the same map could go a long way. I don't think we'll ever see like it turn and become a map where everybody's like, oh my gosh, we have to play World's Edge, especially in the rank scene, because I just think it'll always have that like that special place, whether you're dropping like Monument or Fragment and going crazy, or my favorite big mod drop. Because dude, man, shooting paintballs, there's just something about it that is just, it doesn't matter. Like the game is just more fun when you're shooting paintballs. You just need to
That
make every gun a mod gun. Not
that
like
all
actually
nine?
like have it be like, not have it be like the mod guns, but like every gun should shoot paintballs. And yeah, dude, that mod 9, that shit is just
With that reload
diffy.
time.
Oh, whew.
Oh my god, dude. Love that.
It's a good time. It's a good time.
Love that.
Okay, now moving on into some of the other stuff. We got anti-cheat updates, which when everybody saw this was like, oh, fuck yeah. And then you realized it was just a notification system, which still cool. Still cool. Like it lets you know when a cheater was removed from a match, which I'm not going to complain about it. It's a quality of life thing. It looks nice, feels nice. So that's there. And so that's cool. Nothing changed, I believe, to the anti-cheat though. So that remains the same. This one is kind of big for content creators, anybody trying to rank up with their squad. This is the new promotional trials that is coming in Season 19. Basically, completing the conditions of a trial within the given match count, either by winning a game or completing the alternative, will allow promotion into the next tier with 250 LP promotional bonus. Failing to complete the trial within the match limit will result in the trial ending and a loss of LP based on the player's performance. Trials are limited up to 5 matches, increasing by 1 game each time a player fails to enter the same trial, and you get a max of 10 retries. So they're going to add something in when you're getting into that next rank where you have to, I'm assuming the trial is just win a game. So yeah, so rookie to bronze, it is win a game. Bronze to silver, win a game. It's all just win a game. The alternative, they all have different alternative conditions, But you have to win a game within those 5 games. Otherwise, you go back down. Once you win the game within those 5 games, then you get into the next tier. So like silver to gold or gold to platinum with a 250-point bonus. They're trying stuff new with ranked. They're trying to do everything that they can. How do you guys feel about this type of system going into season 19?
I think it's going to be fun. I like the fact that they are working on making some changes to ranked, which is something that we've been begging for a while. So kudos and shout out to Respawn for trying to wet our beaks a little bit with what we've been asking. I will say this: I think the solo queuers, all right, the lower ranked solo queuers are going to have a much tougher time. All right, much tougher time. I'm looking from rookie to bronze. You need 3 top 10 placements and 3 kills and assists during the trial, and the trial is 5 matches, right? So from bronze to silver, you need 3 top 5 placements and 6 kills and assists. I think some people are gonna. I think bronze and silver lobbies are gonna be sweaty, bro.
They
I
already
think,
were this season. Like they
were
were
they?
like from a casual perspective. I mean, you guys would probably like wipe them, but from a casual player perspective, it felt tough. Like it felt tough for a long time. Like, and that rank distribution photo that they shared, where it was like a lot of people were in the silver and the
Yeah.
bronze area. It's like, dude, it was hard. I think it was mostly because their matchmaking was kind of fucked for a little bit, but it was hard, man. And doing that, it's gonna be tough. So I agree with you on that.
I know the matchmaking's fucked because me and Mandy were playing yesterday, and we got a guy that was in plat. We both dropped over 3,000 damage. It was a 15 something minute game, and he ended the game with 137 damage. Like
That's crazy.
there is a clear problem with the matchmaking there.
It's
So
probably me. I was probably your teammate.
I was talking mad shit, dude. I'm not gonna lie.
E, how do you feel about this?
It should be good. We'll see how it goes. I do think the trials is a little wacky. I wouldn't have thought of it as an idea for dealing with the ranked placement wise. But we'll see how it goes. I don't think it'll affect me too crazy much. And the rest of like the high level players. But yeah, Peeps does bring up a good point about like these lower level players who typically solo queue. I've always been in the position that like solo queuing, you're just actively holding yourself back, especially once you hit diamond. Just because once you hit into that diamond level, it really becomes much more of a game about positioning as a team and communicating being the difference maker in your fights more so than the lower levels. Because like the lower levels, I feel like if you're a shooter, you just walk through every lobby up until you hit diamond, and you're just putting everybody down. But we'll see. It could be much more difficult for those lower level players, and we might see them having to get teams earlier on than what we have previously seen as like that diamond cutoff. It might start getting lower and lower as it becomes more competitive, adding on these more difficult things in terms of allowing people to rank up.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting system. I can't wait to see how it works out. But moving on here, boys, the wingman is entering the care package. And when you look through this thing, it gets a new hop up called Skull Piercer Elite, which ignores helmet headshot damage reduction. So if you want to think of it this way, think Tom Brady is regular Skull Piercers, Peyton Manning is Skull Piercer Elite because it's way better. Just think of it that way. So just think of it that way. That's what it's getting. It also gets boosted loader as an attachment. The base damage is increased from 45 to 50. Projectile size increased as well, and 110 ammo.
Are you
Not
serious?
only that,
Okay,
not only
I'm
that,
actually,
boys.
I'm pumped. I should get wingman prio on almost every squad. I'm
right.
juiced.
That's right. Not only that, Enoch, but every care package will now have at least one weapon in it at all stages of the game. You know how you would open that one? It'd be a fucking gold helmet with a Phoenix kit and a med kit, and you're like, what the fuck is this? Every single one in every stage of the game will now have a weapon. Wingman
Man,
boys.
I'm definitely gonna miss out on being triple red armor and pulling up on the purple armor swap out of the armor.
That's right. How do you guys feel about this wingman, though? I mean, I think it was always
Dude,
destined to go to the crate at some point.
Obviously I as a wingman enthusiast, it is tough to see it go, um, because I just simply will be not able to use it as readily as I once was, and especially dude off rip.
Oh my
There's
God.
just there's no better gun in an off spawn fight than a wingman, and so no longer being able to have like the moment where you just like land on like a blue armor and a wingman, and you just be like, guys, I'm running at him and I'm shitting on them all. You won't have any of those, but dude, 50 a bullet off base with bigger shots, dude, that thing is gonna be busted.
110 ammo.
I am, dude. 110 ammo, like that's a game. You can get that early, and you're like, that's 6, 7, maybe 8 fights, depending on how much of a shooter you are. Dude, I'm stoked. I'm super excited. I'm definitely gonna be a wingman abuser, and we'll be making the Bocek wingman the only care package guns I'll pick up, because I'm definitely taking those over anybody else.
This is like one of the few times I think you like every single. This will probably go down. We could have a discussion on this in the future when it actually drops, but like greatest crate weapon of all time. What comes to mind for me is like the RE45 from a few seasons ago. Maybe like the Devotion from the early days. Obviously, Kraber's up there. This could be up there. I might be missing a few. R99 was good, but it ran out of ammo.
No,
quick,
it was
think.
not good.
Oh, it was
The
not
Volt
good?
was better, and the R9 had no ammo.
Yeah, that's
You
true.
had like what? You had like a buck 30
Pretend I didn't
was-
say
in
that.
your
Trash.
27 mag R9 when there's a 28 round Volt on the ground that has ammo everywhere for and shoots straighter than anything else in the game.
Just
But it was
completely
so
forget.
silly.
Just forget I ever said that.
We're,
Okay. What were you
Move
gonna
on.
say?
we're definitely missing some pack weapons because I feel like there was definitely some things where I'm like, oh my God, they got one of those.
Yeah, I'm trying to
I
think.
feel like the Prowler has definitely
Prowler
had
was
its
good.
moments. I mean, when it was like I think 1 damage stronger in the pack than it is right now, like that was just like there's been a couple of times the Prowler's been in the pack where it's just like that gun.
Yeah.
Was there anything else? I know the Peacekeeper was in there for a little bit. I didn't like it as the early Mastiff.
Oh my God, dude. How do we forget that?
Yeah, that one was good. That one
It
was.
was-
I was
clean.
never a fan of it.
Really.
Even with it too I never. I
You're
I
smoking
never.
drugs.
I'm not a shotgun gamer, man. I'm not a shotgun player.
Back in the day, though, with the heady, it was a one-shot kill on purple armor.
was
One-shot kill.
insane.
I'm almost positive. It was like 230 or something.
Back
might be
the
s-
4-round Mastiff, yeah.
I might be smoking rocks though.
No,
right?
it was a
was
good
good.
gun. It was a good gun. I wasn't like that with the Mastiff.
It was good
As
enough
they
for me to
say.
1v3 a team, and with my skill, that shouldn't be happening. So that's how good
That
it
means
was.
that gun had to be crazy.
Yeah, it was crazy, bro. It was crazy.
That thing was twisted.
Moving on to the legends here. Now, this is where it can really affect competitive, but you guys seem to think that it wasn't. I'm gonna read it out for the listeners, and you guys tell me why I'm wrong in this, thinking that these legends were gonna take a back seat. Bangalore, double time reduced from their duration. It was 3 seconds, now it's 2 seconds. The smoke lifetime is 5 seconds less, so it goes from 23 seconds to 18, and the rolling thunder stun duration is only 6 seconds. It was 8. So that's big for Bangalore. Catalyst.
We got to talk at 8 seconds. I knew that that whenever I got hit by Bangalore, I was like, bro, I am stunned for like forever. But now that when you hear it and when you see it, it was 8 seconds
Long time.
the whole
Felt longer.
time.
Felt
8
longer, man.
seconds, dude. You were like, I'm out. You
Yeah.
had a. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
I
like
bet.
a Phoenix kit.
Put your
Yep.
controller down.
Mm-hmm. With Catalyst, the piercing spikes, they can no longer block projectiles, allowing bullets to pass through. The max in-world count reduced to 2. It was 3, obviously. And then the throw range was decreased by about 50%. And also, the cooldown now starts after the wall comes down. And the reduced lifetime is 5 seconds less. So it was half a minute. It is now 25 seconds. Tell me why these two legends are still going to maintain their spot at the top of competitive in ALGS Year 4.
I mean, I think the biggest thing for Bang is maybe the stun duration from the ult. Because once you hit somebody, you knew you could just push them for free, like literally push them for free. Because especially as a controller player, like you're helpless. You're trying to turn on, 4-3 sensitivity on linear, and you're praying to God that you turn. The smokes, mm, you know, we'll see. The double time, people are definitely going to feel a difference on that for a little bit. Uh, but I think for both Catalyst and Bangalore, it's not big enough of a change to say, you know, here comes a new legend into the meta. That's just personal. I don't know. What do you think, E?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is none of the nerfs really are changing enough to stop the character from doing what it does and what it's ridiculously strong at doing. And so, yes, like the smokes are going to go away faster, the ult's not going to be as good, and the double time, sure, it's a nerf, but you're still going to be able to take massive amounts of space. There's only a few times where the smoke duration lasting a few more seconds. There's only a few amount of times where that really makes a difference, especially I would say in comp. And so I don't think that we're going to see Bangalore die off too much, especially just because of the skill expression that Bangalore as a legend creates on MNK. I think it unleashes MNK players' ability to really show how truly talented they are in combining aim and movement and fighting and positioning. And then when it comes to Cat, dude, I mean, yes, like Cat got nerfed in like a bunch of different areas, but the passive didn't get touched. She's like still has 2 Qs. Like, yes, you don't have a third, and yes, you can't yeet them as far. But it was always a little weird how far you could throw them.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
for being a defensive character, you could throw that thing a half a football field. You're really just like Tom Brady minus the cheating.
No, it was like Peyton Manning before the broken neck.
Damn, bro. You're talking about my skull piercer elite right here, bro.
Listen, we both can play that game, fellas. Don't worry, man. I'm representing New England.
That was fire. I like this game. This game's fun.
It's my favorite game.
No, but the passive is the thing that makes Cat so unbelievably strong. And that didn't get touched at all. And so the fact that I can throw a nade to blow off a door and to try to make a push, but I still have a Cat Q that's sitting behind that door that I probably don't have an angle to shoot out. And then by the time I get my angle to shoot out that Cat Q, the Cat is still going to be able to reinforce the door, and then I have to use a whole other nade.
Mm-hmm.
And so basically, yeah. And then it's just Cat is one of, if not the hardest legend to push. And it's just the amount of stalling that legend creates is just unbelievable, and that aspect does not get changed in the slightest. And so I don't think that we're going to see really any teams drop Catalyst as a result of the nerf.
Okay,
like,
beautiful.
Catalyst is so beyond broken that Cat could get nerfed 5 to 10 more times, and I would still say that everything I said is still true.
Yeah, okay. All right, interesting stuff. Now, the last thing here that I think we got to talk about is players now respawning with shields and weapons that they had before they were eliminated. And this is kind of crazy.
Big W, but I think that it won't be quite the way that they said it. I think what will end up being implemented is that, and I think what they're already planning on implementing, but they just worded it wrong, was that I believe what's going to happen is that it's going to be the color of the armor that is in your box when you're respawning.
Mm-hmm.
Because if they were to implement that into when you die, you're just going to have a team that they're going to be like, oh, we got a purple off rip. All right, you pick it up, like, die with it. You pick it up, die with it. We'll respawn, and then everybody's walking in with triple perps. I don't think that they're going to allow that to be a thing that is going to happen. And I think I saw some playtesters say that they spawned in with a different color than they had when they died. And so that could be pointing to the fact that we'll be seeing that it won't end up being that way. But I do think it's a massive positive change, and it'll really make getting those respawns off, whether or not you have an ability to get a box, is always worth it, because you'll have the ability to actually like fight. Like, yeah, you're going to be at a disadvantage because you're off spawn, right? But it's not going to be I'm at a disadvantage because I'm fighting a guy with red armor with the 19 round alternator that I scooped out of the pill as I was coming out of the dropship. I have armor and 2 guns that I should be decent with, and you actually have like a chance. And I think it'll be super exciting, and it's a huge W change, and I'm looking forward to it.
Love it. I mean, shout out to the devs that thought of that. I mean, that's just a great change because when you die, sort of late game, you're getting brought back in, and you're like, "Fuck, I don't even want to play this game anymore." You know what I mean? Like, just kill us all right now and on to the next. Unless you're spawning on a bunch of loot boxes, and then you're like, "Oh, thank God, we're back in." You know,
and they're like, the boys are so back. Let's
go. But a little bit of ammo. You got the weapons you had, unless it's a care pack weapon, which I think that's absolutely fair. And you get your armor. We're cooking.
Yeah.
Let us cook.
You can actually like not insta die. Like you have the ability to drop out of the ship and then kill the guy that's waiting on the ground for you. Probably not, but you have a better chance than you did before, no doubt.
I think this just makes a lot like the perspective I'm always coming from, and you guys will hear it more in the interview, is like the casual and like watching for ALGS, but also like clips and social media for the game itself. Like remember the early days of Warzone, you had so many clips coming out. Early days of Fortnite, so many clips coming out whenever something new happened. The clip potential of you dropping out of a dropship and 3 manning a team by yourself, like destroying all 3 of them with just whatever you dropped in with, is going to be so sick to watch, because I know there's going to be some crazy clips that come from that, and it's going to be cool and intense. I just can't wait to see the clip potential that comes from it. And I think it just makes it more fun overall. One thing I wish they would do too as well, when you drop in, you get like, you have to wait max on all your abilities and stuff. I wish they would just have that reset. Like you're already against odds. Maybe not now, but back in the day it was, you were already against the odds, and now you don't even have like your queue. That would have been nice. But you have more potential here to maybe come out with something and not look at it so dreary and dim and be like, there's no way I'm doing anything with this. But yeah, big change, huge change. And season 19, that is most of the stuff here that is all important for ranked and or competitive. Obviously, next week, we're going to get a full week's worth of time to be able to sit in the game and see which things may come to the forefront, which things we thought would be good. Maybe they're not as good. Who knows? Maybe Conduit is a legend that people look at. But ladies and gents, we're going to send it on down to our interview with Meat Lovers Teq. We talked about everything under the sun and more. Must listen interview. Teq, awesome guy. On the YouTube, his webcam was not working, so that's why there was no visual there. But nonetheless, great interview all the way around. We're gonna hit a quick ad. Let's get to Teq. All right, here we are, ladies and gents, with a very special guest. First time joining the show, Teq, our man Teq from Meat Lovers. Teq, how are you doing, my man?
Good. What's going on, guys? Thanks for inviting me. Doing pretty good. Just kind of tired. A long day.
No, yeah.
So, yeah.
100%. I do. I think as a podcast, I do have to make a quick. I got to make like a quick little apology. When the Meat Lovers team was first introduced, our original host Finn accidentally called you guys the Meat Riders, and it became an inside joke. So we have said that name before, but we got to apologize now that we got you on the show.
Yeah.
It's officially the Meat Lovers now.
That's funny. I mean, Meat Riders was actually the name I submitted to ALGS, and they didn't approve it. So I tweaked it a bit.
There we go.
That's
and then I was like, Meat Lovers, and I just told like the ALGS admins that that's my favorite pizza, and then they approved it.
Okay, perfect. There we go. So we were kind of right on. We were right on the money with it. Good.
There you go.
Awesome.
Yep.
Cool.
Wait,
glad to clear that up.
That's a backstory that I don't think almost anybody in the Apex community knows.
Probably not. It's kind of like a low-key thing, I guess.
You heard it here first. You heard it here first, folks.
Love that.
Well, bro, I mean, you're heading into another ALGS, and we have so much to talk about as far as just storylines, just with you alone in the future. But as far as the team and the Meat Lovers, I know a lot of things are still up in the air. But going into year 4, what are you looking forward to most, and how are things been rounding out recently?
I'm just looking forward to having like a fucking third that'll stick with us. that's basically it. Like I felt pretty good going in with Zap. We've been working with Zap for like 3.5 months, something like that. And then this whole Zap like situation just imploded. So now we're kind of back on the grind for a third, just like Lux and I. And now I feel bad for Lux because like it used to just be me getting the shit in the stick with like thirds getting poached and whatnot, but now it's like Lux. Because now Lux has gone through it with I think Koi and then Zap and then maybe someone else. I think those are just the two, Lux and I. So now Lux is getting like that feeling as well. So I guess just kind of preparing to find a third and figure out a way that I can find a third that I know will stick with us and isn't just in it for the short term in the short term gain.
I mean, that it's tough, man, honestly. I don't think anybody has had it worse than you have with being able to, well, number one, props for your eye for talent, because you are finding these guys that barely anybody knows about, and they are becoming T1 players, right? Because of you. Um, so props to that. Uh, but dude, how many thirds have you gone through? If you don't mind me asking.
Well, can we just get like a like the overall tech journey through comp story, and then like all of the
Yep,
different rosters that you've been through and played with?
sure. Yeah, it's gonna be a while though. We can talk through
Yeah,
all of
you
it.
got it.
All right. I started comp in March 2020, so about 3.5 years ago. Um, my first team was Euris in Supra. I don't know if you guys know who Supra is. Who's just the Euris Supra and I were just kind of ranked buddies, and this was before Euris is like a big famous streamer now. He was averaging like 40, 50 viewers at the time, and we just played ranked together. We liked watching scrims, and I was like, "Yo, guys, like, let's sign up for ALGS." And this was back when they had the OTs, the online tournaments. You just sign up, and then every OT you sign up, you play through quals, and then you get to finals. And finals was what's broadcasted on Play Apex. And the very first ALGS that we signed up with Euris and Supra, we made finals, and then we got like 12th place. And then after that, it's kind of just got addicted to the feeling of comp. At the time, I was competing under the name Coronavirus, and that's kind of how I guess my what is it, my climb to fame or whatever you want to call it because of that incident. Um, but I guess I've kind of grown and moved on past that and kind of to where I am today. Um, I don't even remember what that team name was, but it was Yuri Super and I. There was a whole like drama behind that. That kind of imploded. And then after that, I kind of bounced around from like team to team. I played with like Z Davis at one point. I played with a bunch of just kind of random dudes, and then at one point I settled upon Panders and Lion as my team, and then that was when I first started playing crypto because everybody was playing. I know we kind of mentioned this earlier, but this was back when everybody was playing Path, Wraith, Watson. And the meta was just rotate fast with whatever that you had and go bunker down. And at the time, neither of my players could play like that playstyle that well. And I just personally thought it was boring. And we kind of theory crafted this crypto ape comp where we just EMP teams sitting in buildings, and I would just send penners in, and he would one clip, two people, and then Line and I would just go in there and clean up, and it was a lot of fun. Like we had so much fun doing it. It was the non-traditional way of playing, and I guess that's kind of how I got my reputation for being a crypto player. That team eventually, I guess what happened with Panders? I guess we dropped a line at one point. We picked up Saucer, and that was Team Flying Drone. I think we got our biggest achievement with that team was getting third place in summer circuit playoffs. I think we won like $18,000, and that was like super cool. So that was kind of maybe my first big break in comp, was getting recognition from that event. And then that team fell apart because of just tensions between Sauce and I. You'll kind of find that throughout my history of comp, I've had tension with at least one person because I'm kind of a hard headed person. So if I team with someone else that's hard headed and stubborn, we clash very fast. And I think kind of the first break I had from like being hey, mediocre IGL to being, hey, this guy actually might be kind of good is with meat lovers because I felt for the first time I had two people I was very content with. They didn't really clash with my personality. They didn't have like any tendencies to take over or doubt my comms and my plays. And we played pretty well. And that's kind of my journey from like the start to the mid part of my career. And to where we are now. I guess there's a couple rosters like Bowser and Noct, but Bowser and I got in a big argument one time because we're both kind of like hard headed, and then it's kind of went from there. I think I went to go after that. I went to go try to coach Sentinels. I can't remember what the like series of events is. No, actually, after that, I played with Furia, with Zera and Panders. Panders was, I guess, on the topic of poaching, the very first player that I kind of had to do with that. Back then, the initial Furia roster was me, Zera, and Mr. Hakulo. And I had picked up Zera and Hack because they were like an insane duo. They were dominating like open night with Series E. They were, in my opinion, at the time, like the best duo in the game, like fragging duo. So I was like, hey, if I can, take this duo and bring them on and like put them around the map and move them around, we could be a pretty good team. And we started off weak. Towards the end of our time as a team, we actually got like really, in my opinion, really good. It's just people don't really remember the kind of the last moments of our team. I thought we were pretty good. I had to convince Furia to bring on Panders. I was like, this guy is insane. Like, I think he's the best control player in the world. No one else at the time recognized it. They refused to pay his buyout from Ghost Gaming. I think it was like maybe like 9 or 10 grand, and I was like, fuck it. Like, I will pay for it out of my pocket, and I will eat the cost because I think I can win with this man because I think he's that fucking insane. And then eventually, like eventually they did it themselves. We brought on Panders, and then a few months later got dropped for his Watson, and then they go on to like get second place at champs. And then that's kind of the story with Panders. That was the first poach in a way, kind of like reverse poach maybe. And then after that, I was like, I learned a lot about myself. I was like, damn, this whole time I had kind of two world-class players by my side. I didn't even know it. I knew it in Panders at the time, but I didn't have confidence at all in Zera at the time. And I'm at my best when I play with two people I know I can win with, or I'm very confident in. And I think that showed that showed with me lovers with Sinu and Funk. But after that, I, reflected. I was like, okay, what are they doing right? What did I do wrong? And a lot of it was just kind of like vibes and leadership, not necessarily gameplay, but just like vibes, leadership, enabling your teammates, being a good teammate, being a good leader. Kind of things like outside the game that I had to kind of step back and reflect on. And then I was like, okay, I can do this. I learned a lot from watching them like play and like dominate without me. And then I went to go play with Vane in Luxford, and our team was Los Demonios. I don't know if you guys know that name, if it sounds familiar, but it was Vane before he popped off on Oxygen, and it was Luxford. I think within like a month of playing, I think Shiny would sit and watch my stream, and then he eventually made an offer to Luxford to take him to Complexity alongside Shiny and Monsoon at the time. And I was like, well, I just lost my teammate. This fucking sucks. I guess I'm going to go take this opportunity to coach Sentinels. Because at the time I was like, I can coach Sentinels, or I can go play with this team that I think is pretty good. So once Lux got poached, I was like, okay, it's kind of set in stone that I'm going to go coach. So I coached Sentinels, which was Lou, Senox, and Crust. And kind of long story short, we ended up dropping Lou. We couldn't find a replacement. I subbed in for a little bit. I learned a lot about what it means to be a good leader and what it means to be a good teammate from the coaching perspective that I guess I never got from being a player perspective. So I kind of brought that to my next journey of like meat lovers, because I was split one year 3 ALGS. I brought what I learned and what I taught them. I applied it to myself, and then it kind of just ended up with Zainu and Funk, and kind of all those lessons learned from coaching Sentinels to being dropped from Fury and watching those guys dominate. I think it kind of helped me go over like the next hurdle of what it means to become like a actual tier 1 IGL. And then here we are. So
All right,
It
so
was lengthy. You were right. That was lengthy, and it's crazy because
yeah,
it
sorry.
just no, it's fine. It's just a crazy. We actually have like a tally on the show. Whenever another teammate, you'll get the tweet. It's like you'll have a tweet that comes out, and all of a sudden it's just like, all right, he got another one taken from him. We got to add it to the tally. Yeah. It's just it's crazy to watch from afar, and but like Peep said, you do have a like an extremely crazy eye for talent. Is there anything that you do extra to find these guys, or is it just you're constantly watching and constantly like paying attention to who's out in the scene?
I'm constantly like lurking. Sometimes like it's not intentional. Sometimes it is intentional. sometimes I just notice, like I just sit in scrims. I'm like, I spectating this guy. I'm like, damn, this guy's beaming. And then his name's kind of just always in like the back of my mind. I think where people fail to like learn how to scout on their own is they only see like gameplay. I think where people don't look in terms of scouting is like how bad do they want it? Like how much of a hard worker are they? Like I have a few rules when finding a new teammate. I don't play with anybody that is retired more than once. If they've taken a break and come back and try to come back to comp, I don't play with them because one, that shows me that they have a lack of passion, or there's a doubt in them that they actually want this. I played this game since the start of ALGS or close to the start. I've gone through a lot of like shit. I've gone through a lot of scenarios where I did bad. I made a bad name for myself. People hated me. I lose teammates, and like I still haven't quit. And that to me that shows that like I really want it, so I know how to look for other people that want it just as bad. So that's like I have a bunch of criteria, like they cannot have retired. What's their mental, like what's their attitude, like how hard do they play the game, like do they complain about playing the game, because there are a ton of people who are really good but you can tell that they hate playing the game. And if they hate playing the game, they're not going to want to play scrims, they're not going to want to VOD review. So it's like I guess I kind of have like a system to filter out who's good, who has the attitude, who has the drive, and who has the motivation to do what's needed to become like a tier one teammate or a tier one player. Because I feel like I know how to take someone with that drive, and I know how to make them good and make them motivated to become like to rise to the top. And I guess I don't think a lot of people have that ability to filter out these players. Like take like Slurpee G for instance. Slurpee G I think is mechanically like pretty fucking good, but that guy hates the game. Slurp to me is not the type of person who would sit down in a Discord call with me and VOD review for 2 hours. He would just leave after 30 minutes, and I knew that pretty quick.
Yeah, that's fair. I
Um,
would say as someone who knows him, I was like, that's
yeah,
fair.
and like you got to think of like who are the best control players in the world. Like let's take Verhulst for instance. Look at his like mentality and attitude. You think if Raven tells Verhulst, be like, hey Evan, let's go VOD review for an hour today, like after this scrim, do you think he's gonna say no? Like maybe if he's busy, he's be like, all right Raven, like let's do it. Like show me what's up. And I think there are a lot of people with mentalities like that. You just got to know how to find them. And obviously, it's not good enough just to have a good mental and like suck at the game. You have to have both. So I'd rather kind of work with someone that may not be as good mechanically as maybe like Slurp, but better, but kind of come with that like mentality and desire to grind and really improve on their mistakes and whatnot.
Intangibles, bro. I mean, that's what made Tom Brady, 6th round, 199th overall, the greatest quarterback of all time. You know, didn't move the fastest, didn't have the best arm, but he wanted it. Had heart, had drive, had passion.
And cheated.
Also cheated a little bit. But
Suck a fat one, both you guys. You can take turns. All right. One thing I do want to let the viewers know: Teq was the first person to ever bring crypto into ALGS. Before APAC, who was really, really big on crypto, he started that meta and revolutionized that, and that was insane. Um, so Teq, quick thing: how many players taken from you? Because I tried to keep up, and there was so many
Yeah,
I
I mean
couldn't.
let's count them. It's I think I've had 7 teammates either like gone on or poached to like become players on like tier 1 orcs. So the first one is Panders. I dropped whatever you want to call it. Let's just put Panders on the board. Panders to Furia. Um, I'm not gonna. I play with Noct, but I think when I play with Noct at the time, I'm not gonna really count him because he kind of had like Norordi already. Like he was kind of already known. So we'll skip Noct. But Noct after my team kind of went on, I think to Optic actually, or to ESA, I believe,
ESA.
right after my team. So I'm not going to be a poach. I won't count as a poach, but he did play with me. Went on to a fucking GOAT team after my team. After Noct, we had, I believe, Luxford was kind of like the first real poach, where it's like I found this guy on my own. No one knew who he was. Complexity took him like legit a month later. I think it was less than a month. Um, and then after that was Zainu, kind of Funk, kind of Koiful. I don't really know if I count Core or not. We trialed him for a week. No one had known who he was. Like, I guess the other control players in the scene knew knew who he was, but no one was willing to give him a chance yet. And then Lou and Dupe trialed him after a week, and then he went to go play with them, and then he got poached by Sentinels, and then we picked up Zap, and then Zap was getting trialed by FaZe and Sentinels, and I think that's it. So how many is that?
So I had 5, but there was like 3 or 4 honorable mentions. So we could theoretically
Yeah,
say like 9,
something like that. 7, 8, 9. I don't know, something like that.
something like that. That's still crazy. That is just insane.
So
So yeah,
what keeps you going, bro? Because most people in your place would quit, right? Or would take a coaching job or even a GM. Like, bro, you could be a GM for, and I've heard you say you hate this, right? But
yeah.
I think it'd
Yeah,
be a
there was a tweet.
disrespect
Yeah, there was a tweet
about him hating that.
about hating people say that like he should be a talent scout.
People say I should quit comp to become a talent scout, and that shit like pisses me off when I read that because it's so disrespectful to me in my grind. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not the best player, but I can IGL like better than most fucking IGLs in Pro League outside like the ones that constantly make LAN.
I agree.
And I feel like when people say that, it makes me feel like I'm like a fucking bottom Pro League IGL. I feel like people treat me like I'm a bottom Pro League IGL, and I'm not. So like I know my value and what I could bring to a team, whether other people don't. I know what I can bring and how I can kind of form a winning roster with time. So I guess kind of knowing that I want to win and I know that I can win, I know that I can be a good team with the right third and with the right amount of time. I guess that kind of keeps me going. I guess I don't like depend on Apex to make a living, so that does help. It's not like I'm taking a year off school or taking a year off work and grinding to see if I can make it, and then all of a sudden a year or two's passed and I've done nothing, and then the time's up, right?
Which
And then
that's
I
definitely
just
something
can't.
we're gonna have to talk about.
Yeah.
Is your work time profession?
All right, yeah, I work. I'm a full time engineer. I work in the private industry doing defense work for the government. I work 40 hours. The nature of my work is it's classified, so I can't really work remotely. So
Levels.
most days I'm going in. Most days I'm going in 5 days a week.
That's
I
pretty baller.
wake up at like 7:30, 8:30 a.m. depending on the day. I get to work between 9 and 10, and I leave between 4 and 5 and get home between 5 and 6. And then if I'm lucky, I get like a little 15-minute break just hanging out with my girlfriend, eating food, and then immediately getting on to, an hour or two before scrims to warm up. If I'm lucky that I get a warm up, other days I literally stay a little bit longer at work and I just get home. I say hi to my girlfriend and I immediately get on, like not warmed up at all. Tired. I got fucking like sags coming out of my eye, like underneath my eyelids, and I just play. I play as soon as I get home. I play for 4 or 5 hours. Sometimes I play like R5 for like an hour afterwards, and I just go to sleep. Basically, like Monday through Friday, it's just like wake up, work, commute, work, sleep, and then repeat like 5 days in a row. It fucking sucks, but
Passion.
I guess I'm at the point where it's just kind of my life, and I'm kind of used to it.
Love
Does
that.
that grind ever get to the point where you're like, I mean, obviously you're still doing it, so I don't think you'd ever want to like just quit out of the blue. But has there ever been some moments where you're reflecting and being like, man, I really wish I could either A, spend more time with the family and the girlfriend, or like maybe I need to go in one direction versus the other? Like, have those thoughts ever crossed your mind throughout this grind?
100%. I'm trying to balance three things in life, and that's Apex, my job, and my relationship. And like she lives with me, so it's kind of hard sometimes. It's not like she's long distance where I can kind of just like blow her off and not give her attention or whatever, So like she lives with me, and it's hard because it's so hard to really do all three well. And I feel like it kind of results in me trying to balance all these three of these things. It results in me doing all three kind of mediocrely, if that's even a word. If you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm not the best boyfriend. I try to do as much as I can for her. Like I don't give her enough time that she deserves. At work, I slack because at work I'm thinking about like Apex. So half the time I'm doing like actual work shit. The other half the time I'm doing Apex related things, like I'm bot reviewing other teams, or I'm just like doing whatever Apex related. So I'm not fully there at work because I'm constantly thinking about like Apex. Because work doesn't really excite me. Work to me is just the way I go to work. I pay my bills. That's the only reason I go there. And Apex doesn't pay my bills. Like my stream doesn't really bring in much money. I am not signed, and I can't pay my Boston bills with my Apex income because I like quite frankly I just don't have any Apex income for the most part. And then so it's like here's my passion project. Like I've always wanted to compete. I've always wanted to be a pro in video games and be on the main stage since I was a little kid. It doesn't pay me anything. I have my normal job that I went to school and I studied for. It pays me, like it pays my bills, but I don't really like it. And then I have like my relationship of my girlfriend that I love and whatnot. And I'm trying to give her as much time as I can while trying to do the other two things. So it does result in me suffering kind of all aspects of those three things that I balance. It's kind of just the sacrifice that I guess I make temporarily. And I can't really give up anything. I can't like imagine a world where I stop competing in Apex because I wouldn't know what I would do after work. I feel like I would feel so fucking bored. There's days like on the week I try on the weekends not to play Apex to give my full attention to my girlfriend because she deserves it. And those days where it's like, damn, I feel like I don't know what to do myself because I'm not busy. I'm kind of just like doing nothing, and it feels weird to me. I feel like I constantly have to be doing something. Like I constantly want to be productive in some form or fashion.
Have you at other points in your life had like hobbies that you enjoyed outside of Apex, or is it? I mean, obviously you're not. You're like you're so busy with everything you have going on that you have no time for anything else. But have you at different points had stuff that you enjoy doing?
Um, I think at every point in life, I've always been busy. I guess. Um, like I'll give you some examples. In college, for instance, uh, in the summers, I would never take summers off. I'd always take summer classes because I didn't like the feeling of not doing anything. I wanted to get ahead. I wanted to like outperform my peers. So I would take classes in the summer, and during like the normal semesters of the normal school year, I would just study all the time. I would study from the time I got home from class till I went to bed. Weekends, I would barely go. I would barely go party. I would go study, and I feel like I was constantly doing something from like the time I wake up to the time I sleep. In high school, I was kind of like the same thing. In high school, I would work after my classes, and I would just pick up as many hours as I could because I like making money.
Mm-hmm.
So I've always felt like I always do something outside of like my main thing, whether it's school or courses or work, whatever it is. I always feel like I have to have like a second grind.
That's fair.
100%.
With engineering, especially, I had a decent amount of friends who were engineering majors, and I was glad I was not them. I was
Yeah, it
I
sucks.
was very much chilling with my education workload while they had to deal with their engineering workloads, and I was always just big chilling.
They say in college there's like a triangle. It's like social, grades, and fuck, what's the other one? You guys know what I'm talking about?
Partying.
Not that I can think of off my head.
That was
It
mine.
might be like partying, social life, and grade. Or no, sorry, it's your social life, which like includes partying and whatnot,
Mhm.
and having times with friends. Your grades and sleep. In college, you can only pick two out of the three. And I feel like with engineering, you only get one. You only get sleep. You don't get the other two, and I chose grades, so I never got any sleep, and I never really had a social life other than like here and there.
Well,
So I guess I'm kind of just accustomed to like making sacrifices in my life.
getting into this makes me curious on like if everything was perfect, we can
Yeah.
just pretend for a second that everything works out the way you want it. If there was no barrier on anything that you could do, I'm assuming it's Apex, but like what exactly would it be in your perfect world, like where you could just have this all of this time to yourself, not have to worry about money? Like what is Teq doing with his time?
100% running like an esports organization. That's always been my dream. Um, I feel like kind of with the way things have been in the last couple of years, it's kind of discouraged me from pursuing anything like that. I would love to do kind of what Nate Shot did. He built his brand around his competitive COD career and kind of grew it into 100 Thieves. I think like that's fucking awesome, and that's something I would love to do. Like literally exactly that. Just because I've always loved gaming. Like since I was a little kid, I've always been gaming for as long as I could remember. Like owning my own org and managing and owning my own players and building my own teams and having them compete in various esports. And I just think the sound of that is just fucking cool. That's what I would do if money wasn't an issue, if I had all the time in the world and whatnot.
So would you
No.
start your own org, or would you want to get, hired by TSM or hired by
100% start my own org.
love that.
100%.
You got
from the
a
ground
name?
up.
A name? No.
Meat riders.
Me lovers. Yeah.
Me
Maybe.
riders. Yeah.
No, I'm sure
Sponsors
you
are
can
gonna.
put that on a
Well,
t-shirt.
certain sponsors would go crazy for
Yeah,
the Meat Riders org.
Domino's
specific ones.
knocking on your door
Yeah,
immediately.
yeah.
All right. So out of all of the different teams that you've played with throughout your comp career, which would you say has been your favorite to play with?
Um, I'm gonna say it's really hard to answer because I'll tell you what. I'm gonna say Zion Funk, and I'm gonna say Zion Funk because that was the best I've ever IGL'd. It was the best performance. It was the time where I actually got respect as a player and an IGL for once, and that feels amazing. Like people seeing you like for the work that you've done. It's like I've been doing the same shit for 3 years every single day. And finally people are starting to realize, be like, hey, maybe he's not that bad. Maybe he's not an actual shitter like we all thought that everyone says I am, So it was nice to kind of feel validated for once from that performance. And even though that was my favorite team of all time, because of our performance, it was at the same time um, the worst teammates I've ever had. I love Zainu Funk. They were incredible players, but I would not team with them because I thought that at the time they were horrible teammates, even though they're incredible players. Um, I think that was their first ALGS, right? Zainu Funk, and they're like 16, 17. They were very hard to work with because I'm like a decade older than them, and I see the game like I see like running a team very professionally, right? Like they're in high school. I'm like a grown ass adult, like working a normal job. Like I structure things very differently. I'm like, we set a schedule, we show up on time, we play scrims. After scrims, we VOD review, or we set days that we VOD review. And I had a coach to help us and everything, and they didn't want anything to do with that. They're like, I don't really like scrimming. Like VOD reviews like pointless. Like this is stupid. Like we just nitpick on everything. Blah 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 blah. Like this is a waste of my time. And they just wanted to play ranked together and just show up on game day. And I like we just go back and forth. I'm like, guys, like if you want to be the best, like you can't have this attitude. Like if you're on TSM and Raven tells you to VOD review, are you going to tell them no? Because that's essentially what's happening is they would tell us no. And I know that if they were on TSM, they would not be given that kind of same attitude towards Raven and whatnot. So it was like a lot of back and forth between us of like me berating them to take it more serious and to put more rigor and structure into them. And then Zainu gets poached by DZ, and guess what he's doing every day? The same shit that I was yelling at him to do every single day. And after time, he's like, I really like scrimming, I really like body reviewing, I see the value in it, blah 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 blah. And after a while, I remember Zainu came into my stream one day and he was like, you know what, Zainu and I cheered you kind of shit. Like you deserve better. And I was like, thank you. It's nice to hear that because I don't like nag just to nag. Like I nag and I nitpick because I generally want all of my teammates to be like the best version of them of themselves. Because if I'm playing with you, it's because I think you're fucking amazing and you're incredible. And I want to like elevate you as much as I can. So if I'm nitpicking, it's not because I'm being a dick. It's just because I literally want you to play your best, like the best that you're capable at.
That's really cool. Just to be able to hear that, like, I feel like that's probably what parents go through, right? Where it's like
No, that's exactly what it feels like.
You're like their apex parent, and I think it kind of goes back to something you were talking about before that I found really interesting because you've had a lot of like very public situations happen. I say public on the Bluebird app on Twitter, but there's been a lot of situations that played out. And earlier when you were talking about those situations, you were saying there was a lot of things that made you grow as an IGL, as a teammate, as a leader, all this different type of stuff. And it kind of made me wanted to think back on some of the things that you were doing wrong, that maybe if somebody
Yeah.
is trying to become a better teammate, trying to become a better leader, trying to become a better IGL, like what were some of the things you saw in yourself that you were doing wrong that moving on into meat lovers, like you saw yourself improve on?
Yeah, I think uh, when I was at like the peak of being a shitty teammate was on Furia, I guess, and back then I never had any like bad intention to like flame my teammates or anything. Like I said, I did want the best from them. I guess just the way that I approached like talking to them and like presenting problems to them. Like I was very like analytical. Like I remember there's like this meme going around. I think for like a the games we had up until AGS, like we had like 36 something ALGS games to review. I sat down and I looked at like every single fucking LGS match and I made pie charts of like who fucked up, why did they fuck up, and then like I presented it to them and it was like kind of like very like black and it was just very cold. I guess was like, hey, this is what we're fucking up on. This is why it's bad, and like I feel like I didn't really treat my teammates like humans in a way. I don't think I would ever yell at them. I guess it's just the way that I talked to them was very cold and not understanding because sometimes I look at people as robots and it's like, just, it's simple. Do this. Like, don't make the same fucking mistake. You make the same mistake every time. I have it here in my pie chart. Like, it's clearly a reoccurring issue, So it's like the things that I'm saying aren't wrong. It's just the way that I say things and the way that I approach, um, the way I say things to people sometimes is very wrong. And I kind of learned that and from kind of going through that experience and then also coaching Sentinels and how kind of like, being a bad vibe uh, kills motivation for your teammates. It's like if we die, like the last thing someone wants to hear is like, oh, why did you wide swing? Or like, how did you lose that one? Like you're a controller player. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's the last thing people want to hear. And it kind of took a while for me to be like, okay, I can't say those things because that's just going to make them overthink or it's going to make them like be annoyed. Like they're not going to want to hear it, even if what I'm saying is right. And they're just going to play worse. So kind of just learning how to not do those things and more so like elevate my teammates in the moment rather than try to correct them in their gameplay in the moment. I think kind of helped a lot, and I still do it from time to time. It's not an easy process to change.
I love that
So
example of right after somebody dies, like not immediately going and saying, "Why did you wide swing?" or something like that, like along those lines. What is
yeah,
something that you've substituted that with to try and like offset and be like, hey, I don't want you to think I'm nagging you, but also let's try and work on this for the next game. Like how have you kind of like, is there like a phrase or is there like a approach you have to it now that makes it a little bit like different?
I just don't. I try really hard not to. Like if we die and someone makes like an obvious mistake and they know that they fucked up, like the last thing I want to hear is like, why did you do this? Or like, how did that happen? Like they know that they fucked up. When I make a stupid mistake, no one's grilling me like, why did you wide swing? Or like, how did you lose your 1v1? It's just like, or like if I'm going out and throwing something on the crafter while there's 5 teams around and I die, like last thing I want to hear is like, why did you hop on the crafter? I was like, I don't fucking know. I just did. Like, don't ask me. And I guess I just learned to not ask people. I would maybe see their perspective first before I say anything. And if I can find a way to kind of be like, okay, I can bring this up without coming off as like hostile or like I'm attacking you. That's kind of what I've learned to do because I've found that people don't like being attacked, especially while anybody is streaming. I found that people are way more receptive to criticism when nobody's streaming because I think sometimes people get embarrassed of being called out and being wrong in front of people. That was like one thing I was like, one of my other rules I kind of mentioned earlier with like, who do I find in teammates? One of my rules is like, I will never team with a big streamer because of that reason. Because one, it's hard to give some like criticism feedback to someone that's streaming to like 1,000 people because they have their chat the entire time like reinforcing that, oh, like he's annoying, like he's right, he's wrong, like whatever. And I think that's in a way it's like embarrassing for them and it's harder for them to like absorb what you're saying. So now I just kind of either don't say anything or I just bring it up like in VOD review the next day. So I've just kind of avoided it entirely and just be like, all good, like go next, like it happens, shit happens, whatever, you know.
I
It's a
wanted
process,
to,
man.
oh, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say it's a process. Like the fact that one, you can see that certain things that you're doing aren't working, one, you realize it. Two, you make a plan to work around it and get a better result out of the whole situation. So I love that, and I commend you for it. Um, what is so? I know you have something going on to try to find a new third, right? Do you have any idea of who it might be that you guys are going to get, and do you have any sort of um, any way to have them stay?
Also, just huge props due to like the whole tournament. Like, I will say that you have to have immense respect for your ability to take any amount of like bad situation that you get faced with and turning away to make it an entertaining spectacle for the entire community to be involved with. Because I know that I remember you picked up Zap through the
Yeah.
1v1 tourney, and that's where he really got on your radar. And then now we've
Yeah.
got an even a bigger iteration, which I'm really excited for you to share with everybody what you got going on. Because there's nobody does team trials like Teq.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the way I do things like for those trials is just like it's the fastest way. Like it's the fastest way to expedite who's fucking good, like who's out there, and like kind of like really put them on display, because I can sit here and be like, okay, like I heard this name, I heard this name, I can like trial them and whatnot. But for me, the way I do things, it's like I set them up to so those trials really show who is good at what I need on my team. Like the reason why I didn't open up to M&K players is because I don't really think there's an M&K player that can fill the role that I need on my team. If I was looking for like a support player, like an anchor type role, like Fun or like Nathan, then 100% I would open up trials, and I would only lock it to like M&K because I know what I need on my team. Even though I think M&K players have spots in comp, on my team there is no spot for an M&K player because I am the M&K player, and the way I play, I don't need another one on my team. I need two very confident and aggressive players, and I set those things up in a way that enables them to play that way. You know what I mean? Like in my first 1v1 tournament, there's people complaining like, oh, like these 1v1s are never realistic. Like you're never going to be sliding out and like challenging this guy. But I was like, I'm like, I know that, but the purpose I did this is for me to see who has the most confidence, like who's playing like a pussy, who's actually like big dicking, swinging out and challenging the other control player. Like that's the type of confidence that I want on my team. And if I have someone that has that confidence, then I can kind of like, tweak whatever flaws they have where in a comp environment. Because I would rather work with someone that is super confident, isn't afraid to challenge anything, and then kind of tone them back a bit, than have someone that's maybe more smart and reserved, but maybe is more nervous or isn't as confident, because then it fits my team dynamic way better when I have two people that aren't afraid to get in there.
Love
You
that.
said something earlier about IGLs when we were talking about you being a GM, and
Yeah.
obviously it's disrespectful because it's like, well, I've put a lot in this grind. I think I'm one of the better IGLs in the league. I'm curious just to know where you would rank yourself among the IGLs we currently have in the scene right now. Because I asked this question, I think definitely asked it to Hal at some point, but I've asked it a few times, and I'm always interested to see where people rank themselves. So where do you think you fit in, maybe in like a tier or whatever it may be in the IGLs around, at the very least, NA?
In my current form with like my current team situation, or like in an ideal
I would say like
world
in
where,
an ideal world where you actually have like the team with you.
yeah, in an ideal world where it's Luxai and someone else that we know is in it for the long run, and someone that fills the role well. And I feel like I'm at like the peak of. I feel like I'm at my peak of playing. I feel like I've made a lot of effort to improve individually. I think at absolute worst, top 10. I think at absolute best, I think I'm capped by working a full time job. But I think at my absolute peak, I can confidently say top 5. But that's not until we have a third that is in it in the long run for us. Because like to give you an example and like more context of why that is, we played with Zap for like 3.5 months. The last 3.5 months, like Zap's always been really good, right? It's not like we made him magically better. The last 3.5 months have been spending like um, molding him to fit with us, and enable him to work with us and enable his strengths and like see what he's bad at, see what he's good at, and kind of slot him into our team and kind of teach him how our dynamic works and how to fight with us and what to expect. In the last like 3.5 months, it's all basically been gone. So now we're kind of back to square one. And it's like every single time we start making progress and our team starts to flow really well and our flow state as a team is incredible, like some shit happens and then it kind of just like explodes and we have to restart that entire process again. So, how do we had Zap going into Pro League? The next 3.5 months could have been, like less about, teaching him how to play and like teaching him how to play in a competitive environment and how to play with the team, and more about building synergy going into Pro League. Because again, we spent the last 3 months teaching him all the fundamentals and teaching him how to play, as a team because he didn't have too much comp experience. And now it's like, okay, less than 3 months into the Pro League, now we have to spend the same time teaching someone else, and we don't really have time to teach someone synergy because it takes a lot of time to like, bring someone from just being a ranked grinder into like ALGS or being someone that was on kind of like stuck in CC into ALGS, and because it's a much different game, kind of at like the highest level and at the lowest levels, or I guess if you haven't competed at all, it plays out very differently. So I feel like if I, in an ideal scenario where I don't have these setbacks, I could confidently say top five, and at absolute worst, I say top 10, top 11,
So you said top 5. Is that top 5 NA?
top five NA.
And who
Yeah.
are the 4 other IGLs you would put there?
Can I pull up a Wikipedia?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
100%, dude. Thing.
Absolutely.
Let me
Let them
make sure
cook.
I don't miss.
Let them cook.
Let's see. So 2002, 23. Let's look at Split 2. Because that was like the last LGS I played in, if that's fair.
Absolutely.
North America Pro League matches. All right, so top 4, or I guess better than me at my ideal peak is Hal. Wait, hold up. I'm not on Split. I'm on Split 2. 1 second. Is okay. You ready for my list?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Zero, Nocturnal, Howl, and I'm gonna say Phony and Dropped. So I'll say top 6 at my absolute best. I think at my peak, I think I'm better at IGLing than Sweet at my absolute peak, and I think I showed that this past Pro League. I don't. I think I get a lot of like, I don't know, for the lack of a better term, disrespect or downplayed a lot as an IGL because I'm not very vocal. I don't like micro fuck ton during fights. I'm not very vocal during fights. But I think people like severely underrate my ability to move my team around the map and enable them and put them in good positions and put them in the right spots to win fights and like close out games. I think that is very hard to like identify while you're watching someone, because like if you're watching like a controller fragger, it's very easy to see if he's popping off and if he's a high value player, right? He's doing his job, he's doing 400 damage a fight, he's getting 1.5 knocks every single fight. It's very easy to like visualize that and see that it's like, okay, this guy brings a ton of value to the team. But when you have someone that like me, where my strongest asset is moving teams around the map and make sure we're taking good fights and we're having good rotations and whatnot, I feel like that's kind of harder to quantify. It's like, okay, is he actually bringing value to the team? Because I'm not actually seeing anything flashy from my perspective. And I think that's like, if you kind of look at like triple controller teams, like do you know like who most hated is, for instance, like Die Nasty, Laser, and AWOP?
I know
Very talented
Dynasty.
team.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I've seen
very
him in
talented
ranked.
team.
Yeah, they're
They'll
cracked.
win like any 3v3. But that team is like a team that will get 3 kills, get into third party, and die 17th place. They're like a 17th place 3 KP type of team every single time. So I don't think people really like respect and value how much effort and like thought it takes into how to posture yourself around the map, how to rotate, and like what are the right fights and whatnot. And because there's no way to like really show that to somebody, I don't think people really appreciate what I do for the team and like appreciate the effort of IGLing that actually goes in to like my team, whether or not I'm like extremely vocal or not. Because there's 2 parts of IGLing. There's like macro and micro, right? And I think I have better macro than a lot of teams. I think maybe micro is kind of where they outshine me, but I think in this game, having successful macro is the most important thing, because if you can micro, you can win like any team fight, but it doesn't matter if you're dying instantly after your first fight. It's all about like enabling your team and putting yourself in the right position to close out games. And I have Lux to like complement my micro jailing, so I feel like it works out really well.
So
But
love that, right? Number one, I know we all yearn for it, right? People's respect, people's approval.
yeah,
Don't give a fuck,
I wouldn't
right?
say that. I wouldn't say everybody does that.
Bro, everybody wants
Enoch,
to
you're a
feel.
very special case, I think.
You're telling me you don't want to feel people
He
that
doesn't.
I
respect
mean, you can
craziest
appreciate,
thing.
you can have a certain level of appreciation for it, but I don't think that everybody puts it up on like a pedestal as much as everybody.
I mean, I'm not necessarily saying put it on a pedestal, but I think it's human nature that you want to be loved or appreciated or respected. No?
yeah. I mean,
To a certain
I say
extent.
like all the time, like I don't fucking care what people think about me. I don't care if they think I'm shit and whatnot. But at the end of the day, like it is nice to have people be like, "Hey, you're actually kind of decent at the game." You know, whether I care to hear it or not, it is nice to hear it.
Yeah. So you know what's the number one thing that's gonna make you hear it?
What?
Take the boys to land, bro. Ball out.
But I'm trying.
Get
You know what gave me a confidence boost
what's up.
is Graceful telling me. I have a lot of respect for Graceful.
Love them.
He's telling me like I should have been at LAN like a year ago by now, if it wasn't for like all this team shit happening all the fucking time. And I feel like he's right, but it's like I don't know what can I do until then.
You guys were literally so close. You guys were. It was like right before Zainu left, right? You guys were hovering around that like last few spots, and I'm pretty sure you guys were still
Right?
pretty close, right?
Yeah,
You guys were
right.
on pace, 100%.
Yeah.
Right. Right before Zanu got poached, we were top 7, and the buffer was top 11. So we were more than chilling. Like
Damn.
we would have made it, but you
Did you
know,
guys end up like 12th or 13th? Something. It was like
we
extremely
we
close.
we were like the one spot away.
Yeah.
So
That's what I'm
the team
saying.
above us made it, and then we didn't. So
Yeah, like what Peeps is saying, like get the boys to land. It's so close. Like it's literally so close. And to be able to do that with like having somebody just fill in the third after your teammate has just been poached to the top team. It's like whatever you think about not giving a fuck about what people say, you'll always have the respect from this podcast because that is crazy to do and to not just like freak out and still manage to be just one spot away. It's insane. It's insane. It really is like admirable to watch.
yeah, I'll always like, I guess that roster and that performance that's but like, well, I'll always have that close to my heart because I do feel like up until that point, like no one had any respect for me. Just like crypto, one trick, whatever, blah 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 blah. I can only like sit in zone and scan beacon and troll people. So it was nice to kind of just bring an entire new play style and bring, especially like I'll always be proud of bringing 2 players that have never played a pro league split and balled out and almost made land.
Yeah. So what happened to Funk? We know Zainu went to Dark Zero and now he's trialing with some other teams right now since they
Yeah.
dropped him. What happened to
So
Funk?
so there's really 2 things. I know people like look at all my team situations and be like, the common denominator is like Teq. It's like obviously like Zainu and Funk hated Teq or blah 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 blah, but that was just not the case at all. Funk did not like her coach, and Funk did not like Luxford. Straight from his words. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
Funk, like let's team with Lux. I think Lux insane. Funk's like, no, I don't really like Lux. Like he's got beef with him or something. And at the time, he did not respect or like her coach at all. And it was like when it was Meat Lovers, it was me and Coach, which is Dark Side, versus like Zainu and Funk. It was constantly like us two versus them two, like us trying to get them to show up to VOD review, them like holding each other's hands and fighting each other.
It's tough.
So I think the fact that I wanted to keep our coach on kind of discouraged Funk from continuing to play with us because he didn't care about what Darkseid had to say, and he just didn't really like Lux as a player or as a person. I'm not really sure. So because of those reasons, Funk kind of just decided to go look on his own.
Yep.
Like I don't really blame him. Like if you don't like the team environment, you don't like the team environment. Like what can you do?
Vibes of
But I feel like for the first time, it was kind of like out of my control. But I feel like it wasn't fair because everyone thinks that it was like I'm the common denominator. So but like no one really knows what goes on behind scenes. No one really knows other than like the teammates and the teams themselves.
Well, some are going to know now, right? Because you're here on the
Yeah,
podcast and you're going to see it in your chat next time you go live. But vibes are so important on a team.
hundred
Like
percent.
if you're not vibing, if mentally you guys aren't there and just having a good time, you're going to play worse than you would normally, right? Um, but do you have any safeguards that you are looking to put into place, right? To keep a team together, bro, bring the boys to land and get signed.
I don't know. I've thought long and hard about this. When I started like getting this like pattern of teammates getting poached, everyone's like, make them sign a contract, make them sign a contract, and I was like, I can't. Like, I just one feel like it's not ethical. I feel like I can't force these guys into a contract and force them to play with me. I'm not gonna pay them because like I got my own shit to pay. Like I don't make enough to be paying other people's salaries. Like I'm not there yet in life, unfortunately. But I couldn't do it from like an ethical perspective because it's like I felt like it was wrong, and I was like, well, I'm just gonna take a gamble and hope that the next person doesn't do it. Now I'm kind of at the point where it's like, well, if people are treating me like business and like kind of using me as a stepping stone to kind of feel their next tier one offer, like what's to stop me from doing the same? So I made this meat lovers like second trial or whatever, and I said that there's gonna be a contract this time, and people didn't like that, and like, oh, you can't enforce that, like that's really slimy, but I feel like it's not really fair to me or to Lux now because how is it fair that people can use me as a stepping stone to kind of like leapfrog their career into a tier one org, but I don't, and like they're just using me and they're seeing it as it's just business. But how come when I want to take the same approach, it's like extremely controversial and I can't be doing that? I just have to be content with, bringing on players and just be okay with the possibility that they're just going to leave if a tier one org comes. I feel like it's not really fair to me.
See,
Yeah.
I sort of see it from both ways, right? I see it from your perspective, bro, and like my heart feels for you, bro. You know what I mean? Like I do, man. I've really fucking do. But I also see it from their perspective as well when,
Yeah.
you know, your dreams are to compete, play at a LAN, and basically let's take it in terms of football, right? Let's say you're playing for the Raiders and then the Patriots from the 2000s fresh off a Super Bowl hit you up and they're like, "Hey, you want to come play for us?" You're getting more money, right? And you're playing for an established team. And I know probably some of these, I want to these guys, they might need money. They might be in a financial,
Yeah.
spot that they need to pay some bills even though they might be 16, 17. Family might need some help. Um, but I will say you having somebody sign a contract is not scummy or unethical at all. At the end of the day, I know we're just playing video games, but it really is a business when you get down to the nit and grit of it, right? Um, and I think you should have a buyout clause, right? Which you could throw it in there that you would split with the players. And I think that benefits everybody, number one. Um, but number two, dude, we want to see you at land, man. We want to see you at land. And, being a pro player in any sort of esport is such a short lived
100%.
length of time that you got to do what you have to do.
Yeah, I
I
think
agree.
I think it's crazy that people are coming at you on the other side of it because if you're gonna call it like you said, if you're gonna call it business, then you have to give it business on both sides of the coin. Like if Tech wants to go and do what he wants to go do, and he's able to leapfrog these people who have been leapfrogging him over and over, like it just makes sense. Like it just, I don't understand how people would be upset. Are you
I,
getting a lot of like people like talking about it like that?
yeah, I guess when I made my whole like trial thing, I kind of put like a, if like warning or a little note, like if we do want to trial you, like there will be like a non-compete contract, and I think people are upset about the non-compete term. Non-compete was not the word I was looking for, because like I don't want a teammate that's like bound to me that doesn't want to be there. Like I don't want that dynamic at all, because I value like good vibes, someone that believes in me in Lux, and someone that actually wants to be there. I don't want to hold anybody against their will, because like what good is that? That's not good for anybody. Um, so I think what I'm going to do is just do some sort of buyout clause, because like you said, um, people treat it as business and they'll leave at first opportunity. So it's like, why can't I? And I think a lot of the whole like business thing with me specifically, I thought about this, and I think a lot of it comes down to the people that I play with, even my teammates. I feel like they don't really respect me as a player and like as an IGL. As like kind of tough as it is to say that, I think there's some truth to it, because the reason I think that is for two reasons. First is I've gone around and like I've asked people to trial, like kind of from like teams in challengers or teams in tier two, and they'll be like, you know what, I appreciate the offer, but I'm going to decline because I really believe in my team. I think my team can make land. I think we're doing good, and I'm going to stick with my team. But I appreciate the offer, And then I've had like three people tell me that. I'm like, wow, like that's fucking awesome. Like I really respect that. Why can't I have anybody that tells me the same thing there? Like I feel like out of all the teams I tried to poach from like their teams, like their, next frag or whatever, like how come they're not like, all right, let's fucking do it 100%. Like I'm ready to go. Like, no, I'm gonna stick with my team. Like how come my teammates don't say that when it comes to those moments? How come they're like, no, like I really believe in Teq. Like we do really well. It's like every single third that we've played with, from like Koi to Zap to like Zionu to Funk to Panders to Lux, like we were always a good team, and we were like always slowly, like steadily grinding to be the top. It's not like we were a shit team. If we were a shit team, I wouldn't blame the teammates for leaving at first opportunity. But it's not like that at all. Like we're always a good team. We're always grinding. We're always making mistakes. Our scrim performance slowly gets better and better and better. We go from like finishing 8th to 7th to 6th to 5th, like whatever. And it just doesn't seem like, I feel like they're not interested in staying, because I feel like they don't really have respect for me as a player. I think kind of what it boils down to.
I think you're being a little tough on yourself. I don't think that's really all there is,
I
right?
I think it is,
I
because
You don't think
what
money is like
what
an
I've heard.
aspect a little bit?
No,
No.
because no, I mean, sure, it probably is to some extent, but I do think a lot of it comes down to respect as well, because like I have a reputation for like trialing people, and my third's getting signed to big org. So at this point, if I'm like, hey, you want to trial? I feel like for most people, there's got to be that thought where it's like, okay, if I trial the Teq and he picks me, there's a good chance I'm going to get picked up by some tier 1 org, which means money, right? If that's the case, why wouldn't everybody say yes to trialing with like Lux and I if money was a big consideration?
I
That's
mean,
fair.
I see what you mean, but in the sense of respect, in terms of, I really want to talk about Zainu right here, right? Because I used to
Yeah.
play with this kid when he was
He's
averaging
nasty. He's
10
always in the,
something
yeah,
viewers,
10, 12.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and I've seen him do some things in ranked where I'm like, wow, wow. Like I seen him 1v6 before, like armor swaps, just
Yeah, it's fucking
like
nuts. It's crazy.
no time in between 1v6. Absolutely insane, jaw dropped. So he was playing with you, but then you got Dark Zero, who is offering thousands of dollars every single month. All right, you're a 16, 17-year-old kid. Um, you know, and they're the reigning champions of the world, asking you to come play with them. Like,
Oh, I mean, in that case, like I told, okay, there are some cases where it makes sense. Like in that case, it's a no-brainer. I told Dino, like if you don't take their offer, like you're not smart. Like you need to take that. Like it makes the most sense. But I'm talking about like everyone else that hasn't had that clear upgrade to like elevating from meat lovers to a tier 1 team.
mhm.
In my opinion, most of the other ones have just been like lateral moves. Like for instance, I'll give you some context with Zap, since we're on the topic.
Yep.
Zap Zap was trialed by FaZe, without telling us, by the way. That's a completely different story, and he lied about it. But anyways, uh, he was trialed by FaZe, and he was trialed by Sentinels. And he told us that he's only going to accept the Sentinels trial because there was money on the line, and he's not doing it. He's only doing it because of that, and he thinks that we are a much better team than Sentinels, but he's only doing it for the contract.
Starting some beef here. Let's
So
go.
I think there's some scenarios where, to me, it doesn't make sense because I think people look at our team like, for some reason they think we'll never get signed. Like, people forget that, like, the process of becoming like I always think of like BR Demons becoming Oxygen. Like, that's kind of the dynamic that I want. Like, three people that stuck together, they grinded as a free agent team, they got really fucking good, and they got signed. And like, if one person that I spent my time into like scouting and like believing in realized that, they would stay and we would get paid. Like, we would have been paid by now by any org because we would have been putting up the results. And like, Lux and I were putting in a lot of effort into growing our brand and getting our numbers up and stuff. But I feel like now it's this weird dynamic where people think that it's impossible for us to get signed. So they're going to play with us and just leap at the first opportunity of money. It's like the same thing Funk did. It's the same thing Zap did.
Where did Funk go, by the way?
So Funk, after kind of like Zainu got poached, he went to go trial with Madness because they were wild card at the time.
Yep.
And I was kind of upset about that because like it was a lateral move at best for him. And we already had other org offers on the line as well. But I guess that was a little bit different because he didn't want to play with like Darkseid or Lux anymore. But he kind of went to go trial for them, and then he kind of bounced around a bit, and I don't know what he's doing now. I think actually Funk and Zap are trialing for Complexity now. Actually,
Really?
now that I remember, maybe, which is crazy because like two more of my fucking teammates that are probably gonna get signed, and I'm still here, like,
So
not signed.
let's talk about this in the aspects for any aspiring pro players,
Yeah,
anybody who wants to bring value to an org. Because at the end of the day, for anybody to get signed by an org, they got to see the value in it, right? Whether it's monetary
100%.
or whether
Yeah,
it's viewership. So I think it was Thornton on your tweet,
yeah,
said
yeah.
something
Really
about
good insight.
merch. Can you touch a little bit on that and give some feedback on that to the viewers?
Um, so orgs right now, at least in Apex, don't really care how you're doing in the game unless like you're literally like dominant and you're unsigned for some reason. They want to see like how you can attract numbers. Numbers is the main game. Like, numbers is good for advertisement. Lots of advertising, lots of like people looking at advertising generates revenue and whatnot, right? So Thornton told me that I should start like a line of merch, like meat merch, and I should brand my merch. I should sell it. I should collect the data and the stats for how many people are buying it. For how long it takes me to like sell out my inventory and how much money I'm making, and I can propose those numbers to like orgs and be like, hey, look at my meat merch. We've got a lot of fans. We're selling a lot of t-shirts. We're selling a lot of hats, and I'm making, I don't know, throwing some numbers out there, 10 grand a month off merch. And this is the fans we have. This is the audience that our brand has. We can bring value to you. We can bring you viewers and numbers, and we can generate revenue for you through our meat merch brand because our fans love us, they're loyal to us, and they like that. It's at the end of the day, like, esports has always been marketing for the main game, right? Like, that's just how it is. ALGS has always been a tool to market the main game. So anything that you can do to help the orgs market their brand, um, in the kind of thing that markets the main game, it's always going to be more beneficial for you. If that makes sense.
Yeah. I it is kind of crazy, and I mean, it obviously it makes the most sense. It's they're signing you and they want to
Yeah,
make money. So they're signing you to help them make money. And something that I've noticed a lot, and I'm going to bring up the G2 example. I remember
yeah,
G2, they did like a photo shoot with all of like the G2 clothing, right? And I remember they had like the pictures up. They were making memes about it on Twitter, whatever. It was just a funny photo shoot with everybody from G2. I think it was Designful, Gent, and I'm blanking on the third one. Designful, Gent,
Resulta.
and
chaotic.
Resulta.
Oh,
Resulta.
Yeah.
Resulta and
Yeah.
then chaotic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yep, yep, yep.
Yeah, the OG
So
G2.
the OG G2. So they
Aim
do this photo
assistance.
shoot. They get all those clothes out there. And they may have done something that I don't remember. But all I remember was there was a code on the stream and it was just the photos. And there was no follow-up that I can remember of anybody like trying to push it it was just like, hey, we did this thing. This is available. You can buy it and use this code or whatever. I think it's crazy that we see so many players on orgs right now who are not doing like some sort of like giveaway thing or something like that to try and push more merch for their org, when it's like, yeah, they want to see you be successful and win ALGSs. Yeah, that's cool, yada,
Yeah.
yada, yada. But they also want to see you move their merch, get people like more eyeballs on the company. You look at 100 Thieves, they've borderline become a clothing brand with
Yeah.
how their
Yeah.
drops, how
Yep.
successful they are. And having their streamers be able to push it like that, and their content creators, it does so well for them. I think where orgs are messing up right now in this thing, and where the streamers and the content creators are failing and pro players are failing their orgs that they get signed to, is not doing enough of that. It's like, yes, they signed you to win ALGSs, but they still need you to generate money, generate revenue so that they can continue with the org and continue to pay you. So I really loved that insight that you guys, like the discussion on Twitter, because I think if you're a younger player or a younger pro content creator, whatever it may be, you need to start looking at stuff like that, because you're not just like, hey, I'm this guy. They signed me because I'm so cool. I'm this guy. It's like, you are a vessel for sales. And it sounds weird and like it kind of dehumanizes you a little bit, but you're getting
It
money
does.
for it.
Yeah.
So you might as well try to push some of the stuff they're giving you. It's that's, I think that's something we need to see more in the future. And I think a lot more orgs would be able to sustain more time in whatever games they're in if that was possible.
100%. I think when I first started this game, I've never really cared to be a streamer or an entertainer or anything. I've always been a competitor at heart. I would I would rather like show up to and win an ALGS and like have no stream, because I want to compete, I want to win, and the stream shit's like secondary. If I could like give up my entire stream and give up my entire brand and no one knew who I was, if that meant I could win ALGS, I would do it, because like that's my priority. But now it's like, at least in Apex, it's just not how it works. You have to bring value to an org. You have to have a brand. It's not enough to just show up and win, because that just means that you're depending on like your ALGS earnings to that's like the only source of revenue for those orgs. And it's just not enough. And it's not consistent either. Like who's winning ALGS land first place all the time?
One org. There's
It's
one.
dude.
It's
Yeah, yeah. It's one
it's
org. Yeah,
TSM.
maybe two.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
Yeah,
Dark Zero too.
Dark Zero as well. Yeah.
yeah. And it's like it's crazy. Like some of these pro league teams, like middle of the pack pro league teams, they're getting paid in NA like $4,000 or $5,000 a month, and they have no brand. If they stream, their streams are very small. They don't tweet. They don't do anything. They don't even perform, and they're just collecting paychecks. And then it's like, I feel like it's very unhealthy for the scene, and it's setting the expectation to be like unrealistic levels. And it's hurting everybody else, in my opinion,
I agree.
because it's like, oh, this team middle of the pack, they're getting paid 5K a month, so I'm worth that, and we're much better. And it's like, no, you're not worth that. You're probably worth like a fraction of that, because you actually provide no value to brands. Like you don't generate them revenue. So it's like, if I'm investing money and I'm putting in $5,000 a month, I would hope that my investment would return some sort of money. And right now, with a lot of these orgs paying ridiculous salaries, they're just not. So I feel like it's just kind of dominoing in the wrong direction because of that.
It's like the
It's
opposite of imposter syndrome. It's like they're not doing enough, and they think just because you signed the paper, it's like now you're done. It's like, no, you need to
Yeah. I
sell stuff.
yeah. Now
I personally think a lot of the players are more to blame than like actually the orgs and like EA/Respawn. In my opinion, I think a lot of the pro players kind of don't really realize the responsibility they have to like represent an organization and be a kind of like a money maker for them in a way. I don't think they really understand the role that they have to take
I'm gonna full
in
agree.
order for like everybody to benefit in the ecosystem.
Yeah, I'm gonna full agree on that, and I'm also gonna add on. I think it's shameful at pro players that are signed that aren't showing up to scrims. They're not VOD reviewing. They're not performing. They're not streaming. They're not tweeting. They're not building their brand. Not only are they doing an injustice to themselves, but you're fucking your org. You know what I mean? Like
100%,
you are
100%.
literally
Like
doing the people who believed in you dirty. But not only that, the viewers that you do have. You know what I mean? And like you're doing yourself dirty all the time, all the effort. sleepless nights and you're not capitalizing on that, it's the same thing with content creators, man. Everybody, I think it's a blessing that we get to sit on our asses and play video games for a living. And I see these streamers crank out like a 2-hour stream. It's like, all right, I gotta go, but they got nothing to do. They're gonna sit on their ass, watch Netflix or something.
Yeah.
Dude, it, I mean, if that's the life they want to live, that's their choice. Um, but Enoch's the same way. I mean, like we give it everything we have, to the point that when we get off stream, it's because we are brain dead tired and can't perform. So back to what you were talking about, orgs and EA, right? What would you I want to let you know EA does have a partnership agreement with certain orgs that they give a lot of money to help with the pro teams. I'm not sure if you knew that or not.
Yeah. I knew about
All right,
that.
cool.
I do believe that's fairly hard to get into though,
It's
because I've heard some teams that you would be like, there's no way that they would deny it, and they've been denied.
it's a few teams. But it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. What would you like to see from EA and Apex do to sort of help grow the competitive Apex scene?
I feel like there's so many things that could be done. I think at the bare minimum, just something for the like something to connect the fans to the pro teams, because right now I feel like there's a huge disconnect between fans and pros. I feel like there's not enough bridging between the two audiences, and something as simple as like skins. Like, why have we not had skins in the game yet? They're money makers for the game. They're money makers for the org. They're super cool to have for the fans and the people that support their teams. And it's something as simple as that that could boost like our ecosystem and just inject cash into. It's like, why wouldn't we do that? That's the most obvious one for me.
Full agree.
Um,
Full agree. All right. Thoughts on season 19 patch note? It's dropping tomorrow. It's going to be a hot one. Season 19 of Apex. What are your thoughts?
Nothing's going to change. Conduit won't be meta. Um, I think nothing's going to change. I think we're still going to have like the same can't see shit meta. Bang, Cat, Horizon. I
Bang.
can't really see. I can't really see much changing, in my opinion.
Even with all the changes, you still think it's gonna remain?
Oh, those three are
Yeah.
so strong still. I mean, the
Yeah.
Bangalore, it doesn't really change anything from her end about how strong, and then Cat, like, come on, it didn't even touch the passive. The fact that you can like close a door off and then open it and then close it off again in 2 seconds later, or like make another team use like 5 nades just to open up one door is just insane. That character's so annoying. I started playing Cat simply so I wouldn't have to deal with other cats, and it was mad fun. It was the
I'm
anti-cat
excited
cat.
about the storm point changes though, like the map changes. What do you guys think about this? Is something I've always tried to push.
Mm.
Actually, this is kind of on the topic I said earlier about like it's not necessarily like respawn in orgs and pro players and stuff, but it's more about how to elevate the game to the next level. Tell me what you guys think about this.
Mm.
I think the most flawed part about competitive Apex is the drop spot system. I think it's entirely stupid. I think the fact that you have the best teams playing at the best POIs, like, does TSM deserve the best POI? Like, yes, they're the best fighting, one of the best fighting teams. They fought for it. They deserve to land at the best POIs. However, I think there's a limit to like contesting for good POIs. Like, let's take World's Edge for instance. There's 5 or 6 good POIs. The rest are all shit. It's not feasible for every single, like, if you have 20 TSMs in the lobby, 20 TSM caliber teams, they all have to land somewhere. You can't fit 20 TSMs into Siphon. You just fucking can't. And I think it's incredibly hard to be a good team from like Geyser versus like Siphon or like Sax Mod. I think the next way that Apex could be elevated and really display like who's the best of the best is to have random drops every single game. So, like, let's take like Olympus, there's 20 plus POIs. You spawn at different POIs completely random at every single point in the game. So now all of a sudden you don't have to practice and like learn macro from one POI where you're doing the same shit for every single zone. You see a zone, you rotate the same way, blah, blah, blah. You fight this, you fight that. It's a new POI every game. You're gonna have new rotations. You're gonna have to basically do 20 times the amount of learning because you're at 20 different POIs, and it's completely random. So all of a sudden you'll have like, maybe a good zone team like Arcan and crew. Like if they landed Siphon, how good would they be when they have like the strongest zone POI, on that map? How good would they be? We'll never ever really know. And my like opinion of who's the best BR player in the game, who's the best BR team, it's the team that can adapt and flex to all situations, to like all maps, to any metas. That's why TSM's like been the best. They've done well across all the maps, across all the metas. They're consistently at the top. They've shown that they can adapt. And I think it would be really interesting and really cool to see the next level taken of like random drop spots every game. Throw people in and see what they can do, and see who can be the most consistent and who's carried by their POIs and who's not. You know what I mean?
As a viewer, that sounds amazing. Like for me, just obviously I'm not a pro, I'm not even close. As a viewer, I'd be like, hell yeah. I think that would honestly make me follow along with the team, like one specific team, a lot harder. I think that's kind of what's tough about esports in general. It's like,
Mm.
as a sports fan, you're born, you have your team, that's that. Esports is a little different, and it's also pretty young. And I think it's hard to stick with one team for a while because so many roster changes. It's almost like you follow a
Right.
player rather than a team. So it's
Yeah.
like
Right.
you follow this one player and maybe you catch him while he's, in the early stages of his career. Like I remember when we first had Phony on the show back in the early days, like he hadn't really made a name for himself yet. And I've followed him since then. It was fun. I would love to follow my man dropping at all these different areas, IGLing his way through, and just like seeing each spot. And I also think, as a viewer, for the Bluebird interactions after lands and stuff like that, that would be hot and heavy, and it'd be fun to watch from that vantage point as well. I think all the way around it'd be great for viewing. I don't think the pros would like it very much, but I
Oh,
don't
they
know.
wouldn't.
Yeah, they would not like it, but
I feel like there's literally two pros in the game that like change and encourage change, and it's me and Alberelli. Everyone else fucking hates change. They all hate like being forced out of their comfort zone. If it were up to pros, we would still be playing King's Canyon, like Watson, Pathfinder, Wraith. We would literally still be. I swear on like my entire life that's what we'd be playing in 2023 if it was up to the same core of like pro players. And I think there's been plenty of instances where we've pushed pro players out of their comfort zone and been like, hey, this actually isn't that bad. That's like when Stormpoint was being forced into rotation. Like every pro complained about it. Like the zones are so bad. The loot, like this, and that. The terrain is garbage. And then, like a year later, everyone loves the map. They're like, this is the
Gibby,
best map
the
on.
Gibby meta.
Yeah,
Everybody was like,
100%.
I would go the rest of my days without seeing a Gibby ever again. And then like you see a tweet like a month ago, it's like, Gibby was kind of not that bad. Like
Yeah,
you see it all the
100%.
time.
It's like everyone slept on Seer. Back in the day when it was Wraith meta, I remember proposing to my teammates, it's like, hey, like, why don't we play Bang? Like, I think we could make rotations without Portal and just like smoke, just like throw smokes and just run. And they're like, no, that sounds stupid. Like, that sounds troll. And I was like, okay, let's just not try it. And here we are. Like, 3 years later, everyone's just doing fucking Bang smoke rotation, just running their rotations. And it's just like, it's just a normal thing now, you know?
That man Shiv
So,
was truly ahead of his
yeah.
time
Oh, 100%.
because that man was running it down on Bangalore during the
100%.
EU ALGS back when absolutely nobody even thought about it. Like it was viewed as like, oh, he's trolling. He's just playing with
100%.
his team, and now it's like, oh, everybody, and like nothing happened.
So
No buff. People just realized that
I
like,
think,
oh, this character's super broken.
yeah, I think anything that's done to push people out of the comfort zone is not good for pros. They don't like it. They don't like the change. But I think we should really kind of shift towards ALGS making all the decisions, because at the end of the day, ALGS is a marketing tool for the main game. They want to display all the maps. They want to display all the legends, whatever, and they really should, because if ALGS is getting more viewership, that's only good for us. It goes all the way from top down, right? If ALGS is getting more viewers, they're getting more sponsors. If they're getting more sponsors, ALGS has higher prize pools. If ALGS has higher prize pools, more orgs are interested. Imagine fucking $20 million like ALGS land. Like what org isn't kind of want to be there?
Yeah.
If there's an influx of orgs, then all of a sudden you can like negotiate for higher salaries with multiple offers from a billion orgs wanting to show up at LAN. So I think pros should really understand that change is good and doing a lot of different things. Like out of the norm is good because it's going to help us in the long run. But I don't. I feel like people don't think that far and think of it that way. They only think of like what's in their local environment. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And at this point, we might as well change because the same two teams have won every tournament. So maybe you
Oh,
should be
it's so
more.
fucking
Maybe you should
boring.
be more open to change a little
I
bit.
really
Bro,
thought we
have
were
you
gonna
ever
have
seen
it.
have you ever seen Dark Zero play Edge?
No.
I don't think so.
They fucking suck at Edge. They're like the best zone team in the world. And that's all they've ever known is zone. But when they've like been forced to play Edge on scrims or like flex drop to like different POIs on Edge, they struggle. Like they're not the DZ that we know that playing center zone and getting to power positions and bullying other teams to zone. They're a much different team when they're forced on Edge. And I think if we did like a randomized drop system, it would really show that it's like, oh, wait a minute. Maybe DZ isn't the best team in the world. They're the best team in the world at playing a center zone POI and rotating fast. But are they really the best if they aren't challenging themselves and demonstrating that they can succeed in all scenarios and all aspects of the game?
Yeah, it would once again from a viewing aspect, it would also make the first like 3 minutes of every match not the most boring shit in the world because it's literally everybody's
Something.
landing at their exact same spot. You're hearing the
Yeah,
casters
exactly.
just
That
like
too.
you just see the shot of all the teams falling. You're like, all right, I got to wait 5 minutes before something happens, and then things start to take place unless there's a contest. But it would also make it to where they would be able to bounce around on the broadcast, be like, oh, okay, TSM is here, DZ is over here. Let's see, they're pretty close. They might rotate into one another. Like that would
Yeah,
make
There's
it
so
more
much to
interesting
talk
there.
about. There'd be so much more to talk
100%.
about just being
Yeah,
able to look
way
at it
more.
and being like, oh, okay, like let's get the breakdown as we see
I
these
just feel
teams
like
shuffle
in
out.
like the highest lobbies, everything just plays like a fucking book, and it's so boring. It's like, okay, we see like an epicenter zone. It's like Fury is going to be top four. Like whoop de doo. TSM is going to be fighting for the bridge, and they're going to evac in like on zone three closing. Like it's the same shit every single fucking time. But if you change it up, and all of a sudden you have like a hard edge team that only knows how to play hard edge, and they're going to be landing Siphon. Guess what? Everyone around them is all fucked because everyone's used to TSM early rotating. So all of a sudden, when this edge team just plays edge from Siphon, it's going to throw everybody off like their game. They're like, what the fuck? Like we have to adapt and play around this,
Dude,
Like it happens in scrims all the time where it's like even today, like fucking Goat and Karma and Sauce were landing Siphon, and then we landed Thermal and we rotated and we were like expecting our entire side of the map to be clear because it usually is in like a high tier lobby because TSM fast rotates to like any zone. And they're still fucking sitting there and they get us killed because there's like three teams around and it's like it's so easy to be like, what the fuck are they doing? Instead of being like, okay, this team likes to play from this POI. They like to play this way for some reason. I don't know why, but they just do. So how can I learn to adapt around these guys when they're in my lobby versus just like complaining that they're in there? You know what I mean?
So
dude, pros would be so mad. They would actually
would
just
hate
be
it.
so mad
100%.
because I feel like a lot of pros view because I would say that having the experience and knowing how different pro teams handle different situations, because I mean the guys who have been competing forever, they basically, like as you said, like what every single person is going to do, but then
Yeah.
that like the newer players, they just don't have that level of intimacy with like how other teams play, and so it really would go a really long way in terms of breaking down that like barrier, I guess, of like comp knowledge that isn't going to necessarily like win you a game. No, but like it does make an impact when you have like a very good understanding of how other teams are going to play around you. And the
100%.
drops, when you first said it, I was like, that sounds pretty stupid. And the more we talked about it, I'm like, I'm
Fire.
sold. I was like, let's run that
Hey.
shit up. Let's make it happen.
Right.
Also-
Like when I started streaming again, like recently, I kind of stopped for a bit, but I was like, I turned my stream on and people are like, oh, we playing like all 6 games of World's Edge. I'm like, yeah, like, they're not doing Olympus right now. And everyone's like, all right, well, I'm just going to leave because this is fucking boring. Like, I want to watch Olympus. And then my viewer count just like, cuts in half. I'm like, damn, I wish we'd be playing Olympus because people want to see something fucking different. Like, no one wants to tune in and watch 6 games of World's Edge. World's Edge is like, we all know
It's
how
so
it plays
old.
out. It's the same shit every single time. It's so predictable. We know who's going to win, who's going to do well, who's not going to do well. It's like people want to see new shit. If they see the same shit, they get bored. It's just like anything in life. It's like it's the main game, right? If people complain about like skins being recolored in the same, it's no different for comp.
I will say this. I've been saying it for over 2 years now that we needed a new ALGS map, and I'm
100%, bro.
I'm
Oh, we
I'm
need it so
glad.
bad.
I know. I'm glad that they're making moves towards it. I remember I hosted and helped put together a tournament for Intel, right? And I asked everybody in the Discord, hey, can we do different maps? Everybody was like Storm Point and World's Edge only. And my people at Intel were like, oh, that's what they're saying. I'm like, fuck that. I don't care. We're doing at least
Yeah.
2 games of something else. But I wanted two, 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 two. And they didn't want it. So let's say they are bringing a new map to ALGS. What would you want? Kinks
Uh,
Canyon, Broken Moon,
I
Olympus.
actually really like Olympus. I like Olympus for the reason that every POI is pretty fucking good with loot. I think that's the biggest problem on World's Edge, is outside the 5 to 6 POIs, which are held by the 5 to 6 most popular good teams. Like everything else fucking sucks. Geyser's trash, Landslide's trash, like Survey's trash, Epi's trash, Overlook has trash loot, Tree has trash loot. Sky East has trash loot. Like that's like white tier loot, and everything else is purples. Like it's no wonder that the teams that are so vocal about not having change like have the POIs with the best loot. So I think for me personally, like the best things to have is like number of POIs. Like that's number one. Map has to have 20 POIs, and then number two is loot. It has to have good fucking loot. I think Olympus is like the clearest candidate for that. I wouldn't mind Broken Moon, but the devs just need to add 4 POIs to that map, like
Yeah.
maybe three, because that's 16 right now.
Mm-hmm. I was thinking too, going back to your idea, who the fuck is missing a scrim when you need the most practice you can get, knowing that there's a chance that you're going to land at some random POI? Like if it's random every single time, you're playing every scrim, because the more practice you get, the better chance you have to have success. Like nobody's missing scrims at that point. People miss scrims now because, like you said, it's the same thing every single time. You know which team is going where. You already have your
Yeah,
spot determined. The more we talk about it, I think it has to get implemented.
it has to, bro.
Like
It fucking
it just
has
makes
to.
sense. Like nobody would be missing scrims. Scrims would also be like a much more heavily talked about topic. People hate talking about scrims right now because people, like, teams do random shit because they get bored, I think, half the time, but also they're just
Yeah,
trying different shit out. Nobody would miss a scrim. They would be like much must watch TV every single time, trying to figure out which teams are doing well from where and where they suck at and all that stuff. Plus, you could also implement a whole new stat system. I think stats are limited to kills, knocks, and deaths and damage when you have the same spot every single time. Like
right,
I think it.
right.
There's so much you can do with that one change that you brought up.
So, Tech, has anybody tweeted about this yet?
I'm pretty sure I have, and everyone is like, no. I'm pretty sure I have.
I would tweet it again, bro, because you're gonna farm. I didn't see it when you tweeted it, right? I'm telling you, one, that's a farm, and I think two, if you really wanted to get implemented, which I think it's a great idea. Again, pros would hate it, but it's the same thing on Match Point. Pros hate it, viewers fucking love it. Get people talking about it, bro. Tweet about it.
I just sent you a tweet.
Yeah.
I put ALGS Year 4 out of game wish list. These are quote unquote quick changes that I believe would evolve competitive Apex in both competitiveness and structure, as well as providing more spotlight for the pro players.
Wait,
Um,
where did you send the tweet?
on Discord to you.
Discord. Check my
And
list. Oh, and you got.
I put randomized drop spots as like my number one bullet point.
Let's see. Oh wow! All
And
right.
I guess,
No, this is in depth. Oh
and
my
then there's
god.
a bunch of like comments of like people like nah.
Are they
Do you
pros?
guys want the it's mostly actually like casuals.
Damn.
Everyone's like, first point is nonsense. Random drop spots question mark. That's probably the worst idea I've ever seen.
No.
Yeah, you'd be like, people don't like the idea.
Okay, for anybody listening to this interview right now, if there's a point that we are missing, I would like you to tweet it at the Apex the Podcast, at the Apex the Podcast on Twitter, or at Teq, Teq. What's the handle?
Teq Apex.
TEQ.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Apex.
Okay. Well, we could probably go on forever talking Pecs, but we got to cut this off at some point. I would like to congratulate you though, Tex. You have broken Peeps' record of the longest interview we've ever had on the show.
No way.
Yeah, he just
Really?
broke the record. He broke it.
Damn it.
Yeah, yeah. So
Isn't this your first
congrats.
one though?
No, he's officially on the show now. He was on we interviewed him a while back.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. But this is you broke it. Enoch, you're muted. Classic Enoch.
Oh, longest interview turned main host. And honestly, I actually just it wouldn't be a pod if I wasn't muted at some point.
Yeah, at some point. Yeah, yeah.
My bad. I just like talking like about.
No,
things
this
I'm
is good.
passionate
No, it's
about.
This is
No,
good.
you're
It's a good record to
Love
break.
that.
That was absolutely not a place for you to apologize.
Yeah,
Not even
yeah.
the slightest. No, it's
That
been a
is right.
delightful time. And so
Um,
we got one more question though.
We do. I'm gonna give him one more question, and not really
Okay,
a
we got
question.
two more
It
questions.
was more of a statement.
We got
It
maybe
was,
three more questions.
Let me get
Oh
one
yeah,
too. Yeah.
He's got one too. All right, we'll round it out here
Well,
right after that.
This will
Mine's
be
more
a
a
quick half
statement.
hour. Just wait.
Yeah, yeah. You mentioned that when you were at work, and this was a question I was gonna ask. I was like, man, I wonder if an engineer is at work just like pulling up Apex VODs and stuff. And I was gonna ask you that question, then you answered it. I just wanted to say I think it's awesome because it makes me feel good that engineers are still finding ways to avoid doing work as well. Just makes me feel good as a guy who has a job, and I try to find anything I can do to avoid doing work. Makes me feel good. I just wanted to say that.
Dude,
It's my little comment.
I'll watch like Twitch streams at work. Like if I don't if my like load is like light for the day,
Yeah.
and I'll just be like in some like big streamers chat. Like I go in, like we the people's chat sometimes, and I'll be like, "Yo, is anybody working right now?" And like 5 people respond like, "Yeah, I'm on the job right now."
Yeah. Yeah. Perfect. I love that. I just
Like-
wanted to
like
say.
everyone does it.
I just want to say I love it. I love it. I love it. Your guys' peeps, go first.
All right. So I asked Dre Nil this last week. I'm gonna ask you, and this is gonna be, fellas, this is gonna be my question that I ask every streamer. All right.
Heard.
What are the 3 games that made you the gamer that you are today?
Halo, Overwatch, and PUBG. Halo for like, I guess I just grew up on Halo. I think I wanted to be a pro like Halo player. I remember watching Snipe Down. It's still surreal to me to like be competing against Snipe Down and just like he knows me now. Like I know him.
Yeah.
We're not like friends or anything, but we know each other. We compete against each other. It's just fucking crazy to me because I grew up watching him and I was like, this guy's fucking insane. Like he's my favorite pro player. So I think Halo really kind of ingrained like that passion to be like a competitor in esports from like a very early age. And then the next 2 games are PUBG and Overwatch. I think Apex is literally PUBG and Overwatch combined. PUBG for like the BR survival aspect, and then Overwatch for the ability usage and ability coordination aspect. People like to say ability legends and they hate it and whatnot, but I fucking love it, bro.
Same.
I love the ability spam. I love like the idea of coordinating like 3 ults at once instead of just making it a gun game. Like I love that shit because I played a fuck ton of Overwatch, so I know like communication and coordination and coordinating 6 ultimates at one. Like it goes a long way. So I like to bring like what I learned in Overwatch and my PUBG like instincts, I guess, into Apex. I think that's why I like off meta shit. I play like kind of like a different, unique play style than what's conventional, I guess.
Fucking love that. Fucking love that. All right, E, what's your question?
All right, Tech. So everybody that we have on the show is performing in the top 1% of their field, and I would definitely include you, no doubt. What is one thing that you've learned along this journey to get to the top 1% in your field that somebody, regardless of what they were trying to get into the top 1% in, could apply and like help them along their journey?
It's gonna sound cheesy, but like if you work hard at what you do, you will be successful in what you do. And there's 2 things. You have to work hard and you have to really want it. It's like when people say that, it's like when people pursue a career for money because like I want to be rich. So they go and be a doctor and then they're not super passionate about being a doctor and saving lives and they're just like a shitty doctor or they eventually get fired or they just can't handle it because they're not really in it for the career from the start. They just want the money associated with it. It's like the same thing with like competing. Like I've asked people like players, why do you compete? Everyone's like, oh, I want the money. Like I want the land money. I want to be signed. And it's like those are the wrong reasons. Like if your immediate answer is like you just want to show that you're the best and you want to perform on the main stage in front of like thousands of people and display that you're one of like the best players in the world, like why are you competing? Because you have to have the right discipline and you have to have the right motivations. If you don't have both of those things, then you're just going to fail at what you do, in my opinion. And there's a little bit of luck too. There's always luck involved in any journey, but outside of luck, discipline, commitment, and being in it for the right reason, and just pure passion are the most important things in any journey.
Beautiful,
No,
man.
agree.
Beautiful. Beautiful stuff. Well, Teq, this has been awesome. Once again, you broke the record. You broke the record.
Let's go.
You are the longest interview to ever be on the Apex the podcast. But this was awesome, man. I really enjoyed the insight on all the org stuff and your idea. I'm hyped about it. When we tweet out the podcast, like when it's out, we're also going to tweet this out because I think this would be a really good discussion. I want to hear why people don't like it because so far I haven't thought of a reason where it's bad, but I just might be short sighted right now. I would love to hear what people have to think. But no, seriously, Teq, this has been awesome, man. We got to have you back on the future because I feel like we left a lot on the table that could have been talked about here, and we'll have a lot more to talk about. And we'll be watching you from afar as you head into year 4. So thanks for hopping on, man. We really appreciate it, and hopefully,
All right.
year 4, not only do you get that land, but you get that trophy. That's what we're looking for.
Hopefully, I'm trying, bro.
Yeah.
I'm trying. I just gotta figure out how to find our long term third.
Oh, you'll
That's
get
what's
it.
on my mind right now.
You'll get it.
So
You'll get
we'll
it.
figure it out.
Believe, baby, believe.
You gotta believe. All right, man. Once again, thanks.
All right, appreciate it.
Peace,
See you
Teq.
guys.
All right, ladies and gents, it is heart to heart time. Heart to heart time. We're going to get right into the heart to heart here because we just gave you a 1 hour and 30-minute banger with Teq. Shout out to Teq once again. Thanks for hopping on the show. Kind of giving his own heart to heart throughout that entire interview as well, with like all the things that he's had to go through up to this point. So we'll continue it here. Does anybody want to go first?
E, lead the way, baby.
Yeah,
Lead
I
it.
mean, I kind of did when you asked me how my week is, man. But you just got to put in the work, like
Put in that
just
work.
put in the work and just get after it. Put the time in, put the grind in. Like people don't realize that success is basically 100% guaranteed if you just do the things that the majority of people aren't willing to do. It's really that simple. And I've been doing those things for a fairly long enough time, and it's nice to have like those moments where you get to like see like the little bit of like pop off moments. I've like had a few of those, and I definitely think I've got a few more brewing and cooking. And man, I'm just gonna enjoy it as much as possible. I'm just gonna put in that work and just be in the mindset of like I'm always working for the success that I know is coming and that is there, and then like not that what's in front of me, and I'm just gonna be there, and I'm on my way.
Hell yeah, baby.
Love
Hell
that.
yeah. You want me to go, Weeps? I'm sorry,
it.
Peeps.
Take it.
I always
Weeps
say
works.
Weeps.
Weeps
Is that
works.
weird that I say Weeps and everybody else says Peeps?
Nah, because Naughty and Finn call me that too.
I cannot call I always have to pause. I'm about to say Weeps and then I just say shit, Peeps.
Listen, Weeps works, bro. Ro calls me We the Penis, so like, you know.
All right,
anything
I
and
guess it's
everything
better
under
than
the sun.
that.
Yeah,
We the penis.
We
Damn.
the penis.
because he
Yeah.
knows about it, bro. You know what I mean?
There we go.
He looks horrid right now. For anybody listening on Spotify,
Go check out the YouTube so you can see Enoch's face after Weeps said "we the penis" because he
Yes.
knows about it. Did you say you want me to go first?
Go ahead, brother.
Go ahead. Okay, so I know I talk about the Broncos a lot. I know I talk about that and sports and all that shit all the time. It's all over my Twitter. It's just what I do. But there is like a major reason why the Broncos are like a big factor in my life, and it's my dad. And over the years, we haven't gotten to watch as many games together. It used to be every single Sunday. Like my first memory I have as a child was I was running on the couch while we were watching the Broncos. My dad was like, "Hey, get down." That's like my first memory that I can remember is like Broncos, my dad. And he hasn't really been watching recently. The team sucks and like we're so bad and I'm getting busy. I have like my own family now. I moved out. Like there's a lot of things different, but just being able to sit there while we were trying to illegally stream this game and the stream kept cutting out and we're trying to work together to put the stream together, it would be like 3rd and 10 and it would pause and then the screen would jump over and be 1st and 10. We're like, yeah, let's go. Like it's just like those little moments, like it's just so awesome to be able to sit down and watch the Broncos with my dad and have those moments because you get older and you realize like how many more games do you have left, right? It's like you get a 17 game season. Most years it was 16, and there's a huge off season in between. It's like I maybe he's getting up there. It's like I don't know how many games I'm going to be able to have, so I want to enjoy every single game that I have, even if I'm missing half of it because I'm trying to reset an illegal stream. But getting to see that win, the last time we saw them win was I wasn't even allowed to drink a beer yet. So it's cool. It's awesome. I love hanging out with my dad and watching Broncos games, and I'm gonna severely miss it. I can't even imagine the first Sunday where he's not there. Like it's gonna be so sad, but also I'll have all the memories from before. So that's why I talk about it as much. Like that's like my biggest bonding experiences is with him and watching those games. So I'm very thankful to be able to do that. And this one, we weren't even going to watch the game together because I was like, it's the Chiefs. We're going to fucking lose. And I was like, you know what? Fuck it. Like, who cares? If we get blown out 40-0, I remember one of the biggest games we watched, we were both laughing so hard at how bad we were last season when we lost like 40-10 to the Rams. And that's one that I remembered. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go over there and watch it. And whatever happens, happen. And we won. And so it was just a cool memory. Heart to heart this week is just if you have those moments with your parents, whether it be sports or anything else, go take advantage of those because anything could happen. Life's not promised. Life's not guaranteed. So go check those out. So that was my heart to heart this week. My dad and the Denver Broncos. Weeps.
Listen, that was a sweet, sweet moment that, you're talking about your dad and the Broncos. That is not going to stop me from giving you guys shit because fuck the Broncos. I'm still mad at CJ Anderson and you guys for beating us in the AFC
that
Championship.
Was one of the craziest games of all time. Tell me it wasn't.
70-something yard touchdown by CJ Anderson, bro.
Where is he? Where even is he now?
I don't know.
That's how quickly things change.
I used to play Apex with the guy. I don't know where he's
Oh,
been
really?
Now.
Was he cracked?
He was pretty good. He would hang in his own in like Diamond Masters lobbies, but he was an NFL player, so
yeah. I think he was also a professional bowler. Dude was just good at everything.
He's just doing it.
Yeah, he's just out there just doing it.
All right, I love that. So my heart to heart, no bullshit, was going to be hard work. He took it. Then I was going to go family. You took that. So
your heart to heart can be whatever you want it to be.
Whatever you want.
It doesn't, even if it's similar to like what we said, bro. It's your heart to heart.
Yep.
You just do you. There's no taking a topic.
My heart to heart
right?
is sharing.
All right. I mean, I think my heart to heart this week is going to be life is short. Life is short. All right. And I feel like that touches upon following your dreams, us of being, content creators, spending time with your family because, they're not going to be there. And one thing you reminded me, Wyatt, is I saw this crazy stat that if you don't live at home, right, like you live in another state, and maybe you see your parents for, 2 holidays, dude, you see your parents like 40 to 60 more times, depending on their age, for the rest of your life. And I thought of that, and I'm like, what the fuck, man? I got to spend more time with my family.
It's literally crazy.
Breaks my heart, man. Honestly, family's the most important thing to me. But yeah, no, it's just it's a crazy life that we live, man. I'm blessed to be able to sit on my ass and play video games for a living. And yeah, I miss my family, man. Miss my family. That's my heart to heart.
We got the holidays coming up. We're right around the corner. You'll be able to see him again, man. It's going to be a good time. I live down the street and I barely see him half the time. So yeah, no, I definitely know how you feel, man. It's tough, but great heart to heart, boys. Great episode once again, back to back. We just keep pumping out bangers. We're so good at this. It's crazy. Thank you guys for tuning in. As always, don't forget to click the link down below. to follow along with all of our social medias. We've got We the People streaming on Twitch. We got Brother Enoch streaming on Twitch. We've got me throwing out pods. And also give a big shout out to Connor, our video editor, because he is putting in that work and also working his ass off in the field. So shout out Connor. Thank you guys for tuning in. As always, we'll catch you guys next week for another episode of the Apex the Podcast in a brand new season. See you.
Peace.